Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Rutherford, the town planner. This is the Farmington Plan and Zoning Commission and roll call of members. I have Matthew Bandel,
Here.
Robert Canto,
Here.
Rogia Afshar,
Here.
David St. Germain,
Here.
Liz Sanford,
Here.
Chairman Scott Halsted,
Here.
alternates Bruce Polsky,
Here.
Mike Tucci,
Here.
and Kyla Zimmerman. I am not seeing
Okay.
online
All right. Thanks, Shannon.
already.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025, January 13th, 2025. We'll start actually with our legal notice, Liz, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a hybrid in-person and online public hearing on Monday, January 13th, 2025 at 7 PM in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the following applications. Bodewin's Properties LLC application for special permit and site plan approval to construct Contractor Bay Building, including request for waiver for impervious coverage in excess of 50% per Article 2, Section 14.c.5.b at 156 Brickyard Road in the CR zone. And the City of Hartford application for special permit and site plan approval for improvements to Batterson Park, including new driveway and parking area, park support buildings, boardwalk, and picnic areas located at 95 Batterson Park Road in an R20, R40 zone. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this hybrid public hearing. Participation in person is at 1 Monteith Drive, Town Hall, Town Council Chambers, or online participation is via the link to the meeting on the Town of Farmington's website. A copy of this proposal is online or available by calling the planning department. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 27th day of December, 2024.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it. So we'll jump right into new business. We have our one new business item, B&R Corporation, site plan application for outside storage of trailers, campers, construction equipment, and wood within fenced area to the rear of building located at 1722 New Britain Avenue.
Hello, my name is Jared Braddock. I'm from Harmston, Connecticut. I am here on behalf of the owner of 1722 New Britain Avenue. I'm just going to go ahead and go through the narrative and kind of talk off of that and explain what we're looking to do. 1722 New Britain Avenue is a 1.5 acre property located in the C1 zone. Last year, actually a little bit longer than that now since we had the new year, the commission approved construction of a 4,420 square foot pre-engineered steel building for the storage of personal vehicles. So it's a personal use building that we put up there. The owner of the property is proposing the following additional or uses for the property. First, the use of the interior garage space, as discussed previous. The interior garage space will be used to store the following personal vehicles and equipment. There'll be cars, collectible cars, trucks, camping trailer, lawnmower and property maintenance equipment, snowblower property maintenance equipment, and some other miscellaneous landscaping and yard maintenance tools. Additionally, we talked about this a little bit previously, but we'd like to use the exterior space behind the storage building inside the fence, which is the gray area that's shown on the map up there. And in that area, we're going to keep a mini excavator, 2 to 3 miscellaneous trailers. He has a collectible restored old timber skidder from when he first went into business. It's no longer being used, but something he had refurbished. And also his first truck, a collectible restored truck, an aluminum trailer. So they'll be held there, primarily as a storage place to keep his vehicles. The other thing that we want to talk about that is different than when it was before you previously was he wanted to use the exterior space just outside the fence area. I had submitted one previously with a orange highlight, but
It just is very faint on that.
oh, there it is. You can see the light yellow highlight that's on there in the scan. But we'd like to use that area for him to do some small firewood cutting operation, be him, perhaps one other person, but primarily him doing the work. The firewood cutting equipment he'd have there would be the mini excavator that we mentioned below or before, just to help lift and move the logs around. A wood splitter, chainsaw, and some other related tools that go with that. And also there's a small storage container that's on site that would be used to store some equipment in. And so on the map that we see up there, there's a couple, the areas that are in white that are on that map primarily is what was approved and accepted in 2023 when I came before you to talk about it. There's a couple of areas there that are thatched in sort of a gray area. There's a large area in the back and a small one in the front. These are areas that were previously shown as grass, and we'd like to make them a non-permeable surface. The large area in the back would be to park the couple things I talked about neatly, the mini excavator, the truck, and so on. The small area in the front that we're showing towards the road, that's just to help with steering and getting around the side of the building a little bit more. Initially, when we looked at it on paper, it looked like everything would work, but when you actually get on site and drive stuff around, it was a little bit tight the way it was originally paved. And so we worked with the people in the town to come up or to talk about what we're adding for impervious space and the calculations where we are now compared to the original application. We did add obviously additional space. To compensate for that, you'll see just behind the large area in the back, just outside the fence, we're showing a depression in the lawn back there that would accept the additional rainwater that would be collected off the non-permeable surface and have a chance to be reabsorbed back into the ground in the back there to recharge the water on the property. So, and to sum it up, we're just letting you know that we'd like to park some additional equipment outside neatly. And I think probably the best way to call it would be a hobby operation, but we're gonna do we'd like to do some firewood cutting and splitting in the back. And the firewood will not be sold from that building, but would be sold off-site at a sawmill in Burlington, Connecticut. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them and see what I can do to answer them.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Off over to you, Matt.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Two questions. Any reason we can't limit the firewooding processing to during normal daylight hours?
No, I don't think we'll be outside after dark doing any of that anyways. I think that's absolutely reasonable and likely what we would do anyways. We don't have any excessive lighting where we'd be able to see what we're doing after hours, so that's reasonable for sure.
Okay. And there's also an item in the agenda review, considering doing some visual barriers between the trail.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
So I spoke with the owner. He's willing to work with the commission. I think his preference would be to keep the backyard neat and clean and keep it as it is. But if the commission's going to require something, we'd work with you. But I think the preference would be to leave as is, but obviously we want to work with the town.
Okay, thank you.
Bobby?
Just for clarification, so the wood splitting operation, is that for personal use at the property? Or are they splitting it there and then hauling it off-site to sell somewhere else?
Good question. So it won't be used on property. There's nothing on property to burn firewood in that new building. And I don't think there is in the existing building that's there either. So it would be split and then it would be loaded to a truck and then brought off site to where it would be sold from. It's not sold directly from there, but from our facility in Burlington.
Okay, so this is like a harvesting area.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, with that, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, most questions were addressed by commissioners, but that one concern that the town has about other signs on the
Mhm.
property, and just want to make sure that there will be no other signs along the property.
Yeah, I talked to the owner about it. It was, taken down today and, there will be no more signs that are going up there.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yep.
Just, Shannon, there, something echoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
I know, so what, since it's not interrupting the presentation, I was gonna let this ride and then between presentations, I'll see, otherwise, I've got a few things I can check, otherwise we're just gonna have to live with it.
okay, thanks.
Thanks for mentioning it.
I
This is all
noticed
driving-
it also.
All of us are wondering. Liz, You all set?
I'm all set,
Okay.
thank you.
Liz,
Okay, just a question of inquiry.
Mhm.
Which side of the building do you go around to drive into the backyard?
Yeah, so, can you zoom in on the building, Shannon?
Because it's kind of narrow on both sides, but I see the,
Yeah. So the building is sort of well, it is, it's an L-shaped building.
Mhm.
So we have to drive around, I guess it would be, what's that, the north side of the building. There's a driveway, paved driveway that's there now that the
Okay.
traffic would drive through. So the larger area in the back also just helps for us to get around. Now there's a gate that goes into the back area that's shown there. So we drive along the north side of the building and then we'd sweep around into the gate to do any of our, loading and unloading, whatever. So,
okay. Interesting. Okay, I understand the logistics of that. And then in terms of like the swale, is it going to be more of a, I guess swale, is that the word I should be using, but, the water quality basin, I
Mhm.
guess is a better way to put it. That's supposed to be somewhat informal. You're going to just kind of excavate and have a lower portion. I see that you do have dimensions.
Mhm.
If I can read. And what sort of maintenance plan are you gonna have?
sure. So, my eyes aren't so good, but when I was looking at it earlier, I believe the difference, in height from some of the spot elevations nearby to the bottom of that, water quality basin, it's around a foot, maybe less. So as you look at that, we're gonna, make it a very large and gradual, land feature.
Mhm.
And then we'll have grass that grows in there and then we'll mow it as part of the regular maintenance in the back. I know previously when we had talked about this property, we were gonna do everything to the front and inside the fence area as sort of like a regular lawn that we would mow and maintain like you would at a house. And then the area outside the fence, we're gonna let that grow tall and wild and maybe mow it once or twice a year and that was it, I think is what we discussed previously. Where we're doing some work, obviously, we probably keep that mowed down a little bit more. And so, we would maintain that area just like we would the rest of the back of the property.
Okay, okay. And so the discussion is out there about kind of letting the back portion rewild, so to speak, or, kind of
Yeah,
become more.
we would want to keep it more like a meadow type of thing, so
Oh.
we could let the grass grow and then
Mhm.
once a year, maybe twice, take
Oh.
it down. We don't want to get a brush or anything to grab,
Right.
like that growing in the back.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks, Liz. Dave?
Yeah, a couple questions. What kind of vehicles are gonna be delivering and retrieving the wood, and how often will that be happening?
Sure. I would say probably the material that'll come in will come in on a log truck. I would imagine that would be once or twice a month. And then the material that's leaving there would be leaving on a single axle, small dump truck that the homeowner or that the property owner owns. And then that would be leaving as it needs to be brought to the lumber yard in Burlington where it'll be transferred and sold.
Does the owner of this property also own the sawmill?
Yes,
Can I ask the obvious question?
sure. What's that?
Why wouldn't you chop the wood at the sawmill?
Sure. I would say, I think the best way to put it is he's kind of retiring from the business, but we are a wood business and it's sort of in his nature. So this is a good way in his retirement time to stay active and occupy some time. And so he's not really running the sawmill or the business anymore, but this is a property, because he lives in Farmington too. He can't really do it at his house, so it's a way for him to do that. So,
All right, and I just had some concerns about the noise of saws and all that going on.
Sure. I would hazard to guess, because he's in a lot of different places and not always home, that there might be sawing that happens 3 or 4 times a month. There won't be much noise. That would be my estimation of how often that'll be used.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bruce?
Would like to swap to ask you a little bit about the outside storage of vehicles.
Sure.
I saw that there's a fairly specific list. I actually had to look up what a lumber skidder was.
Yes.
But is the reason that you want to do this outside storage because the inside is full? Because wasn't that building built
Yes.
for storing these things?
So the inside is full, and some of the stuff that's inside probably shouldn't be parked outside. And so with all the things that he has, the items that I'm listing are the ones that make the most sense to be outside.
So collectors being collectors continue to collect.
Sure.
How can you give us some assurance that this number isn't going to grow and he's going to want to put more things out there? And you know, how can we get some assurance it's going to stop at this?
So I will tell you right now that I'm aware of no plans for the things to be left outside to grow. And I will do my best to assure that it won't. And if it's something where we are going to expand and there's going to be a lot more things out there or things that fall outside the list that you have, then I guess we'll have to come back and talk with you about it and let you know what's happening. But as of right now, I'm not aware of any of that happening. So I want to be honest. I don't think he's going to, but I'm not him. I can't make that assurance. But I will tell you that we will, just like we're doing right now, be forthright with what we're doing and make sure that the town understands and we're on the same page.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Mike?
So I was a little concerned about the noise as well. There's a nature trail kind of close by, but
Yes.
I split about 5 cords of wood a year myself, and the
Right.
splitting part isn't really as noisy as the chainsaws.
Yes.
So do you have any idea of how many cords might be coming out of this hobby-ish, it sounded like, for his retirement?
Good question.
That's a great question. I don't know. I would tell you, I think the best way I could answer that question is that there would probably be one or maybe if he's feeling ambitious, 2 log trucks over a year that would be there. And then, and that's what would be sawn and split and sent out. So.
Thank you.
So lots of talk about the wood splitting or the splitting operation back there. How far is it from the trail where that work would be happening?
Good question.
Shannon might be the one to ask that,
Yeah.
but I think that'll give us some perspective on.
So we had come to an agreement, I believe it's 75 feet from the property line. So
Okay.
This is a 25-foot setback line.
Yep.
So the property line is here at the far edge, the solid line, the dash line's the 25-foot line. And then you can kind of basically visually see there's roughly 75 feet from a scale standpoint then to where this yellow line is, which
Yeah.
was the area of processing for the wood. So
And-
that's what we had talked about. And are you
Yes.
recalling the same thing?
Oh, yeah. The only thing I would say is that really the reason I made that area that big again is when that truck pulls in, likely to end up pulling ahead, doing a sort of a K-turn
Mhm.
back, they can unload, But really, the logs, even if you were to look now, are closer to the building than the 75 feet.
Right.
He wants to come out of the building, go through his fence and work on it, not walk all the way down to the trail and so on. So the logs and the splitting will be closer to the fence. The bigger area is just sort of room to maneuver the vehicle as it comes in.
Okay, appreciate that. And there's no plans right now for any additional lighting back there?
No.
Yeah, we talked about not doing the cutting at night, but there's no plans for lighting.
Correct.
Okay, appreciate that as well. Thank you. Anybody else have questions that have come up?
I just to kind of piggyback on Mike's because it's been running through my head. So, 1 or 2 log trucks a year.
Mhm.
So what are we talking? 10, 12 cord? I mean, so I'm gathering he's not doing this for sale or financial gain. He's doing it to keep exercise and keep busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's my biggest concern is like Mike and everybody's mentioning, you know, I burn wood myself and
Right.
it's not the log splitting.
Right.
It's the drone of the high decibel saws that all day long
Mhm.
are going to impact neighbors. And with that new development going up right around the
Right.
corner, I don't want to have issues in the future. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. So I guess a better limit of, or a better idea of, you know, how often, you know, if it's an older gentleman, is he doing it once a, you know, a couple hours a day, once a week? Is it?
It's not gonna be more than, I can't imagine, 2 hours, maybe 3. It's one gentleman, and then maybe he'll have someone there helping him with the machine or whatever, but, and yeah.
Well, and that's what I want to make sure.
Yeah.
I just don't want to make sure that he doesn't hire two young strapping guys in the summertime to start, you know, log processing out
No,
of
if
it.
they're really good, we'll hire them at the mill.
Perfect. That's
There
what I
you
want to
go.
hear. All right, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Anybody else have any additional questions? All good. Thank you so much for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Am I okay to sit down? Or you want me to stay here for a
I
minute?
think you can sit, we'll just drag you back up if somebody
Okay.
ends up with another question, but thank
Yep.
you. Any thoughts? It seems like the one maybe outstanding issue is whether we want some kind of barrier in the back or not. I don't know where everybody's at with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with either, right? The arborvitae screening or, you know, allowed to naturalize. I think the naturalize is probably a preferred method for the landlord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Thoughts?
agree. I think a naturalized meadow is a good plan. Also supports habitat, so.
Okay.
Mhm.
Are we ready for a motion in a second?
Sure.
You gotta come up to the podium though.
We did plant along both of the property lines, some pines for, you know, privacy from the neighbors on both sides. And so if we're gonna do something, I think the homeowner would prefer to do pines. That and arborvitae get eaten by the deer a lot.
Yep.
So, so just, and the pine grows pretty quick too. So that's all. Okay,
All right,
thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Can we say as presented? That'd be sufficient?
I think so, given what we just talked about, yeah.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan application for outside storage of trailers, campers, construction equipment, and wood within fenced area to the rear of building located at 1722 New Britain Avenue, C1 zone by BR Corporation.
Second.
Any discussion? Everybody ready to vote? Know what we're voting on? All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thanks so much. All right, we are on to our public hearing portion of the program tonight. We have two public hearings. Before we get into those, just a little bit for everybody on process. So the applicant, just as you saw, will present to the commission. We'll go through and ask questions as we did in the item we just discussed. We'll then open it up to public comment, first to anybody in the room and then folks that are online. We ask that you try to keep comments, if you're making public comments, to 5 minutes or less. That's just out of respect to everybody in the room and to those of us on the commission. And if your comments echo those of previous speakers, it's okay to say, I agree with what the previous speaker said. And again, we just put those guidelines out there to be respectful of everybody's time. So with that being said, we'll start with, and we think we're pronouncing it right, but with Budowin's Properties. Got it? All right.
Good evening. Michael Lambert, professional engineer with Lambert Civil Design, office at 34 Misty Lane, Monroe. I'm here on behalf of Bodewin's Properties LLC, talk to you about our project at 156 Brickyard Road. I just know, Shannon, before the previous application was talking about the echo. Has that been solved?
yes.
Yes, you solved the
Perfect.
problem,
2 thumbs up, Sean.
right?
Yeah, so I was saying the property is located at 156 Brickyard Road. It's adjacent to Farmington Motorsports, and it's across the street from Dunning Sand and Gravel on the northern end of the Brickyard Road. It's 1.02 acres in size, located in the CR zone. The project does flow east to west, so it flows away from the road towards Farmington Motorsports. Shannon, if you can go to the next slide for me, please. And that's just more of a current Google Earth image of the property. It is a majority of it was a wooded area. Previously, there was a single family residential house on the northeastern corner of the property that was torn down, I believe, in 2016. I could be wrong there, but it's been a vacant lot since. And if we can go to the next slide, thank you. So our proposed project is a 6,800 square foot building for a contractor bay, warehouse, and office. The front portion is 800 square feet, which would be office space for the landowner. And then in the rear is 4 tenants, about 1,500 square feet for each tenant space in the rear portion of the building. The driveway is going to be located on the north side of the property, where you're going to be able to drive in. We have 9 parking spaces to the north, and then a drive around pavement area to the rear of the building, where the rear of the building will have an overhead door and a man door for each of the tenants to be able to access. With the property, everything that is going to be on the property will be stored inside of the building. There is no outdoor storage here, as we are in a aquifer protection area, and that's not permitted within the zone. On the plans, we do show a dumpster pad and enclosure in the north end of the parking lot near the parking spaces. That is for a future development on the site. Ideally, the owner wants to do wheel carts for each of the tenants to be able to bring out to the street, get picked up from there, as opposed to having a dumpster pad. But talking with the town staff, it was preference to show at least a future spot for it to be able to develop within the already anticipated paved areas of the property. The landscaping on the property currently right now, as I said, it was a wooded lot. There was a lot of invasive vines and just a lot of unhealthy vegetation on the property. So essentially the entire property will get clear cut. And then we do have I believe, a significant amount of landscaping around the property. The plans that are kind of on the image might be a little bit different than what was submitted to you, as I did receive comments from town staff a few weeks ago, right before the holidays, and I have been in the process of updating the plans. But for the landscaping, to at least start, we do have about 10 shade trees along the property line, around, along the right-of-way, just to satisfy the town's requirements for the number of street trees that are required along the street. And then we have about 25 evergreens going around the southern, western, and northern property lines, just to be able to provide that buffer between all the properties and us. And as I said before, we are a CR zone, and all the properties immediately abutting us are CR commercial developments. For the storm drainage, Shannon, if you can go to the next slide. We are looking at trying to do a low impact design where we're going to have the parking lot kind of sheet flow to the north, go through a riprap stone infiltration, then into a sediment forebay, and then into a infiltration basin. The pavement, talking with Bruce and Shannon, they wanted to be able to kind of pull that kind of upper portion away a little bit, give us a little bit more space between the sediment forebay and the pavement. We are in the process of trying to shift that a little bit. So as Shannon's kind of sliding in, we did shift it about 5 more feet. So we are just going to expand that riprap protection between the sediment forebay and the parking lot. And then for the sediment, or not the, for the detention basin, we are designed to be a self-contained 100-year storm. So everything that's going to be flowing from that parking lot, from the building, is going to get infiltrated into the basin and designed to infiltrate into the subsoils. The one thing that on the plans that I previously had submitted, I forgot about a emergency spillway that's required by the 2024 Stormwater Quality Manual. Talking to Bruce, it is going to be shown on the plans as Shannon's pointing out for me on the northern side to be able to kind of go off to the north. It is going to go off our property, but there is currently a kind of a swale and path and a existing storm drainage pipe that does flow from Brickyard Road all the way to the west towards an existing swale along the Farmington Trail, the walking path on the far end of the Farmington Motorsports. Part of our project is that we do have to go for the special exception, as we are requesting to go increasing our required impervious. For the CR zone, we're limited, or we have a maximum 40% impervious. We are looking at just under 60%. So part of the town's requirements to be able to allow this was that we need to be able to infiltrate and contain twice the water quality volume. So it would be 2.6 inches of rainfall compared to the now current 1.3 when it comes to the water quality volume. But as I previously had mentioned, that we do have capacity in our storm system to infiltrate and self-contain the 100-year storm. So we do meet all kind of those requirements for the storm drainage. The other utilities for the property, for our sanitary system, we are going to propose a septic system in the southeastern corner of the property. It's going to be piped to a septic tank and then a leach field. Those plans have been submitted to the Farmington Valley Health District. They have been approved. And then for the water system, previous plans that were submitted, I was under the belief that there was a public water line in Brickyard Road. However, that information I had was incorrect. So as opposed to being able to extend the water main, because we are over 600 feet from the closest point of the water main, we are going with a private well on the property. That has been submitted also to Farmington Valley Health. That has been approved. We still have to make an application to the Connecticut Public Health because it is a commercial building. So their regulations are just being able to get a permit for it is a little bit different than a single family or residential complex. For the utilities, we are going to go overhead from the utility pole on Brickyard Road, come to the building. And then we do have 2 concrete pads to the southeastern side of the property for a potential transformer or generator pad, depending on what the final electrical output is required for the building. Those are going to be properly screened. We do have a bunch of, I believe, evergreen shrubs that are going to be proposed in front of them. And then Shannon, if you can go to the next slide. To kind of give you a little bit more of a color rendering of what the property is going to look like. I kind of reoriented it. So to the right is going to be north. So we do have that driveway kind of pulling in, the parking lot to the right-hand side, be able to drive around to the rear of the property. And that's access into the rear of the building. And if we go to the next slide. And that kind of just gives you more of that 3D image of being able to see it from different angles. This is from the southwest. So you do see all the proposed trees and the buildings. And that's from the northeast. You do have that driveway kind of curving in. The white line that you kind of see in the lawn is the property line. That's obviously not going to get painted, but just to give you a visual feature of where our property line is. And then from the rear of the building, you can kind of see the driveway coming in, and the white lines that are kind of shown in the driveway is actually the pipes. Just to kind of show you visually where the pipe network is going to be and how it kind of flows into that infiltration basin, where you can kind of see that depression in the corner of the image. And then one more, just kind of that last angle. So that's the image of the rear of the building, so you can see where the overhead doors are, where the parking lot is. We've got the evergreens, like I said, along the property lines, and then we do have shrubs between that and the pavement, just because we do have to fill that back area up about 5-6 feet, just be able to give you or give all the abutting property owners a little bit more visual, to allow the evergreen trees to grow, but also have something that's going to be able to grow on the side of the parking lot, and kind of hinder any headlights or anything that may be driving back there. With that, completes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to the commission for any questions.
All right, thanks very much for the presentation. I will start with Matt down there.
Sure,
Any questions?
of course. Thank you for being here. Good evening. Just a couple questions for you. First, you have any idea what kind of tenants you're looking to get in this facility?
The Bodwin's, he is part of a welding company. So he's going to move his business into there, take over the office, take over probably 2 of the tenant spaces. And then the other 2 bays, I don't believe he's got any potential companies right now, but whatever tenants we do have to go in there do have to kind of abide by the aquifer protection regulations. So no car washing, no mechanics. I think talking to him, probably envisioning someone like a HVAC or electrical plumbing, some type of contractor just looking for a warehouse space to store material.
Yep, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Additionally, you kind of beat me to one of my questions, gave just a general view of what it's going to look like. Any changes to the aesthetic of the building, or is that still in process?
There's, I mean, he's definitely open to discussion of what to do. When we first came to talk with town staff, they were talking about trying to do different colors between the office and the warehouse space. So we do, it's a little bit hard to see in the image right now, but we do have a little bit darker blue area, and then the kind of like a stone or brick lower portion to the office space, and then the rear warehouse is going to just be a lighter blue. Those kind of colors really are not finalized right now. But if there's any suggestions that you guys want to see on the buildings, we'd be more than open to suggestions.
Okay, thank you. All set.
Okay, Bob?
Okay, great job on the presentation.
Thank you.
The 3D visual really helped with the showing the water flow and all that. It was nice. I'm looking here at the building and I'm seeing windows up on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
So is it going to be basically like garage bay on the bottom with a mezzanine with an office space for those contractors on the 2nd floor? Is that why those windows are
No,
there?
so the windows are just for more of just be able to get light into the warehouse.
okay.
It is all going to be
So it's all going to be one
story,
floor
so,
bay?
yeah.
Okay, no mezzanines or anything like
Correct,
that?
yep.
Okay. Is each bay going to have their own separate security sprinkler, all that, or is it going to be all tied into one major unit for the whole building?
That has not been finalized yet. I know it's a little bit different for us just because now we are on a private well compared to public water.
Right.
But that'll definitely get finalized during building permit and when we pull that. But right now, I probably would guess it's going to be individual fire suppression systems per tenant.
Per tenant, okay. And then no outside storage, it's going to be everything inside, like you said, you're just planning on like HVAC?
Yep.
And electricians and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like
it's
that?
part of the aquifer protection. We're not allowed to do anything outside. So the only thing that would be outside is the dumpster pad, but we don't envision installing one unless there's tenants to come in and say, hey, we need a dumpster.
Dumpster,
Yep.
okay, perfect. No, I think we're good. I think everything's been covered. You've been talking with the town and it seems like you have a good rapport with them.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm good.
Thanks, Bob. Rosia?
Good evening. Thanks
Good
for
evening.
coming. Just to confirm what was said to my fellow commissioner, so it's solely going to be a storage facility and not work won't be done in terms of building and, working on machines or
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah, like
there's
storage facility.
with being part of the aquifer protection, there's only certain types of activities that can happen even inside of the building. So we would have to abide by that, and there's no significant building of any material that would be happening within the building.
Thanks so much. That's all.
Liz?
Okay. Thanks for the presentation, and I agree the visual is really good. Excuse me. Since you're going with a well, your private well, each unit gonna have a bathroom, one bathroom to serve every, or two? As I know, because then there's the office space.
Yep. At the moment, I think there's only going to be maybe one or two bathrooms that would be installed that would be kind of a community bathroom access.
Okay. And previously, was the house a septic, or was it?
Yep.
It
So
was.
the
Okay.
I've forgot to have that documentation with it, but the house, yeah, was on a septic, was on a well. The house has been obviously torn down, the septic has been abandoned, and I believe the well was decommissioned with the health department. I might be mixing up different projects, but that's what I recall off the top of my head right now.
So it likely can be, there's potential for it to be reclaimed and restarted, but I'm assuming at least the well is.
No, I believe
Or-
the well was, I
When you
believe it was
say
actually like,
decommi- I'm just not familiar with
Yeah.
that. Does that mean like all the infrastructure was removed?
yeah, so when it was decommissioned, typically what would happen is that the well pump would get removed, and then the well casing actually either typically would just get filled in and not be able to get reused. And I believe the well was actually like on the property line.
Okay.
So it wouldn't even meet today's setbacks, and
Okay.
even if we tried to reuse it, so it would be, and that's going to be left untouched. We would just drill a new well.
Okay. Okay. I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Dave?
A lot have been asked, but being winter, I'm thinking of snow. What are you gonna do with your snow?
We do have some areas. I don't envision a lot of the parking areas to really be used. So we do have some areas, probably the northern parking spaces away from the building. May have some of the overflow storage, and then there is some area to the that may get piled up along the curb line, as Shannon shown. We do have a little bit larger of a space behind the building, just for vehicle maneuvers to be able to kind of turn in and out of the building. And then if it does get piled up a little bit too high up there, we can be able to try to remove it, probably in the northern corner where there's Shannon's helping me out there with the location.
All right, that's all. Thanks.
Bruce?
I don't have any additional questions, but I will also offer my thanks for all the renderings. It was helped make everything very clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Bruce. Sorry if I missed this, but do you plan on having numbers above each bay so you know which tenants in which one, in case perhaps EMS had to show up to go to the right place?
That is a good observation. I don't think we've actually thought about that. I would assume that on the rear of the building, there would be at least some numbering over the doors, like you said, for EMS and fire. But that's not something that we initially thought about. But it's something we can definitely work with the town and work with fire and I guess police and EMS to figure out what would be acceptable for them to be able to show as far as signage on any of the doors or the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mike. Yeah, and ultimately, any building signage would have to come back to us anyway for a separate hearing. So thanks so much for the presentation. I think the commissioners here all hit on all the questions that I had as well. So this is a public hearing. So if there's anybody in the room that would like to speak for or against this application, we invite you up to the podium. Shannon, you want to check online?
Sure. If anyone's called in online to offer comment for the application at 156 Brickyard Road, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. You'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Again, if anyone is called in for 156 Brickyard Road to offer comment or have questions, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. You'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Mr. Chair, there are no hands raised.
Thanks, Shannon. Any additional questions anybody on the commission has at this point? So it's my understanding that we want to potentially continue this, Shannon, on the drainage issues, or?
Well, staff, so again, timing is everything with the
Yep.
application, right?
Yep.
So, and staff got comments back to Mr. Lambert at the end of December, right before the Christmas
Yep.
holiday. And so we've been back and forth, and I think it would be beneficial from a staff standpoint to
Okay.
iron out a few more of the details regarding particularly the drainage, so that we're a little more solid on the standing for that information. We can set a meeting up within the next, week and a half so that it would put us in shape to have sufficient answers then
Okay.
for the following meeting.
Sounds good. And I think just from the commission's perspective, based on some of the questions, some definition on the outside aesthetic too would be, it sounds like you have some ideas, but maybe some more definition of what the building is going to look like too for the end of the month. So can we get we're going to keep the hearing open. Can we get a motion in a second to continue this to the 27th?
27.
27th, right? Yep.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue the application by Bodewin's Properties LLC for special permit and site plan approval for construction of commercial contractor bay building, including request for a waiver of impervious coverage in excess of 50% per Article 2, Section 14C5B, located at 156 Brickyard Road, CR Zone, with a suggested hearing date of January 27th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks so much. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you. All right, our second public hearing, City of Hartford, application for special improvement for improvements to Batterson Park.
Shannon, a second here to open up the presentation. All right. Good evening. My name is Jesse Harris. I'm a landscape architect with DSC Group. Here with a couple of my colleagues from the project team, and would like to present this project to you tonight. It's improvements to Batterson Park, which by our view is a long-awaited, much-needed project. Next slide, Shane. A little bit of project background. We've been at this for a little bit. Back in spring of 23, City of Hartford engaged BSC Group as well as CSG and some others to get kind of a plan pulled together to kind of put a plan in place for improvements to Batterson Park. In the spring, coinciding with that master plan, the project demolished the previous existing buildings on site, the bathhouse, some of the storage bay garages there, all the dilapidated picnic tables that were out there, the remnants of the old caretaker's house that had burned down. And then in June of 2023, we issued our final master plan report. At that point, the project kind of paused. There was a lot of discussion amongst the city of Hartford, state legislator, about how best to kind of move forward with the operation of the park and the funding of the park. So in June of 2023, Connecticut Deep, by way of public act, was required to do a study on their behalf. And they took the rest of 2023 to prepare that report, as well as they conducted their own public meetings and data gathering, et cetera. And then in January 2024, they submitted that report to the environmental committee. And within that report, there was discussion about different models to manage the park moving forward, whether that was public, private, municipal. And then the third option. And then also out of that report, they really kind of came to the conclusion that the water quality of the pond was such that it really wasn't favorable to swimming for various reasons, E. coli and cyanobacterias. So that report came out in June of 2024, as well as the models to move the park forward in management. Connecticut Deep identified and reached out to Riverfront Recapture as a partner in the management of this park. And they've been in discussion with Deep in the city of Hartford for some time. We were re-engaged as a design team in June of 2024 to basically move forward with the design and why we're here today. And since about October, November, we've had a series of public information meetings held in each community of Hartford, Farmington, and New Britain, just to get the information out there. There's been other postings, a lot of news articles, et cetera, about it. So now we're at the point where we're before this commission to present where we're at and hopefully move forward in 2025. Next slide. Just a little bit of context. The park's about 266 acres. 155 acres of that is Batterson Park Pond. Majority of the park lies within Farmington's town boundary. And then the remainder is in New Britain. That's the eastern shore primarily. And portion of the access to the Connecticut Deep boat launch that's on the southern end of the pond. We're in the R40, R20 residential zone. Batterson Park has historically been a park. Many of you probably recall the days of water skiing and other beach activities out there. So since its inception about 1920s, when it was handed over to the city as land, parkland, it's really been always a park. Unfortunately, the park closed in 2020 or 2015 due to just funding shortages within the city, maintenance declines, et cetera. Just wasn't safe to keep that park open anymore. And since then, it's been closed. Obviously, it's currently being used as passive recreation. People walk in and walk their dogs or go for a walk. Next slide. Again, historically, it's been a park, well-loved, well-used park. Many instances of photographs showing, crowded beaches and waterfront, the water skiing activities that were held historically on the pond, and just kind of those, typical park activities back then. Next slide. As part of our master planning process in 2023 and as well as in 2024, we looked at many things regarding this parcel. We looked at transportation networks around the parcel. How would people get to the park? Looking at bus transportation, bicycle lanes within Farmington and New Britain. We have some commuter lots nearby. We have other uses that would promote use of the park with corporate parks and business use. We looked at obviously the environmental aspects, the topography, the ups and downs, the water, the hydrology of the site, and just really get a full understanding of how the park is today and where it sits in its place in central Connecticut. Next slide. This is just some photographs of the park today. These were taken in June. Since then, some of this area has been mowed by the city of Hartford. Next slide. Again, this was an aerial taken in June. This is looking at the old beach area and kind of the lightish colored soils there. That was the old beach. And that's where the old bathhouse and some of the other support buildings were that were removed in 2023. And you can see the current drive-in in the upper right corner comes in. There's a couple gates there now, but then it comes into kind of a small loop with a few parking spaces in it. Next slide. This is the same photograph, just looking south, and just kind of shows the extent of kind of the open meadow area and some remnants of the old basketball courts and paved court surfaces that remain out there today. So as part of our design process, some of these images that I'm showing here are just really some inspiration for us to kind of move forward with this design. And we really drew inspiration from its current state of being a passive park. We want to make sure it stays a passive park. That's really the whole goal here. But we also need to make it or improve it to today's modern standards of what a park accommodates nowadays. So looking at images of similar things that we want to propose, we just drew inspiration from various other examples. Next slide. So this is kind of a small scale rendering of the entire parcel. We call kind of the kind of center top of the rendering is kind of what we call the focus area. That's the old beach location. That's where primarily the proposed improvements will be. But also as part of this project, we wanted to find ways to explore and use the entirety of the property. And we're proposing to do that by including a multi-use trail from that core focus area down through the woods south to the boat ramp that's in New Britain, Farmington Town Line. We also feel that this is a great connection to gather the folks from the neighborhoods on that side of the pond. There is public transportation and bike lanes on Alexander Road. So again, another nice way to kind of connect and get people off the road and into the park sooner and bring them up to kind of the core focus area where the major development of the park will be done. Next slide. This is kind of hard to see, but this is kind of an enlargement of the trail. It's just over 5,800 linear feet in one direction. So a little over a mile. So it's a nice kind of 2 mile out and back for those walking from the core area. The trail itself will be 8 foot wide paved surface with 1 foot shoulders on either side. There are 3 water crossings highlighted in the yellow. We're working with the Inland Wetlands Commission on those crossings. Right now we're looking at bridges spanning about 25 feet minimum to cross those. 2 of the 3 are really kind of drainage outfalls from Batterson Park Road and the development to the west side of that. The third one here on the kind of lower left of the image is coming across from Finneman Road under the road and drains kind of the big wetland complex in that area. And also as part of this trail project, highlighted in kind of dashed cyan lines is about 315 linear feet of a boardwalk. This is elevated off the ground, and it's proposed that way because it's the trail is kind of squeezing between 2 wetland areas that we identified. So we want to bring that trail up above that and allow hydraulic connectivity to be maintained unimpeded through that between those water courses and wetland complexes. Yep, next slide. So that's really kind of, that previous slide is really the core of kind of the bigger picture. Now looking at the focus area, again, this is where majority of the development will occur. It's approximately 20 acres in size out of the park area. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so I'll just kind of walk through it. Starting with a new proposed park entrance drive off of Batterson Park Road North, I guess you would say. This will be a kind of a divided one way in, one way out with a median entrance. There'll be a couple automated gates there that Riverfront Recapture will control to maintain control of the park after hours. There'll be a small, kind of, for better word, guard shack, but it's really kind of an informational kiosk, really. There'll be space in there for personnel to be staffed as needed, but it's really just meant to gather information. You know, if people have questions coming in, where do I go? What do I do? You know, there'll be somebody there to answer those questions, direct people. There's also a couple, there's space, you know, just off to the side of the road that people can pull off if they need further assistance, just so they're not blocking that entrance into the park. If anybody's driven out there or through this area, you may notice in this meadow space is, you know, there's a couple, you know, some stakes with some orange ribbon kind of going through the meadow. That represents the western edge of the new proposed driveway, just as kind of visual cue. And then that will obviously transition and then reconnect to the existing access drive that comes off of the corner of 2 Mile Road and Batterson Park Road, where it enters today. That entrance will remain as emergency access only. It's also our utility corridor, overhead electricity, and then we have our sewer and gas and water that come in through that road as well. So that'll be maintained as emergency access only. There'll be 2 gates at either end that fire and police will have access to with Knox boxes, etc., as needed. As you enter the site from the new drive, you kind of turn the corner to the west, right at where there's a gate, chain link fence there today. There's a small stream crossing. You'll kind of reconnect there, and then you'll enter into the kind of the much larger space as kind of shown in those aerials of where the old beach was, the old buildings were. And today it's just kind of an open meadow space. You'll arrive into a new parking lot with about space for about 90 plus or minus car space, parking spaces. We also designated a few spaces for people that may arrive with a small trailer that tows a kayak or canoe or something, giving them a designated place to park that vehicle. And then off to kind of the upper edge of that parking lot will be a few designated spaces for bus. Riverfront Recapture has a lot of experience with their current parks, and that, you know, on any given day, a bus could show up with a camp or something. So we've given them space for those to park as well, out of the way. And as you kind of loop around the parking lot, you obviously have your choice of parking, and then you kind of come back around to the bottom. There's designated drop-off pickup space, again, for camps, family to drop off and pick up people and then go park. And then kind of moving off to the north of that parking lot, where the old caretaker's building was, kind of tucked away in the forest there. We're proposing a new maintenance garage. Obviously, this is key to Riverfront being able to maintain this park moving forward. Currently, you know, I have some other slides I'll kind of get into it, but it's really just a pre-engineered metal building, very simple, durable, long-lasting, and that's where Riverfront will kind of base their maintenance operations out of. There'll be a small office and restroom for staff in that building. But again, I have some other details on that, which we can talk about in a few minutes. As part of that maintenance garage, obviously there's some staff parking spaces, maneuvering space for equipment, etc. That space will also be gated off. There'll be a gate there. So, you know, on weekends when there's no staff necessarily on, you know, in that part of the park, you know, it can be closed off. So people aren't just randomly parking in that space. Coming from once you get out of your car in the parking lot, there's kind of this main pedestrian spine, so to speak, that connects the maintenance garage to kind of the core park space. And then once you traverse that, you kind of arrive into a new plaza. This plaza is kind of just open, multifunctional. We've had some discussions about having a couple of spaces for food trucks or ice cream truck to show up. This is also where, it's just any kind of core events that may happen here. This is where you'll just kind of arrive at the park and kind of go from there to explore. This is also where the majority of the activities are in the park. Starting with a new amenities building. That building is currently proposed to be a precast concrete building. It's going to have men and women's restrooms. They'll have some office space. They'll have space for nurses station if there's a camp there and a nurse needs a place to, to kind of be based out of. And then there will be a small, again, for lack of a better word, concession space, but it's really just meant to bring food in as catering. There'll be a small sink in there. There won't be any meal preps occurring there. Everything will be brought in, but will be kind of distributed out of that with, your typical kind of roll-up windows and et cetera. There'll also be a small covered space, patio space where people can kind of gather under the canopy. There'll be some tables there. That's also the side that the windows, the serving windows will be on. Adjacent to that will be a kind of a new playground. We feel it's important to have kind of this active playground here for kids to give them something to do. The whole intent of the playground is to keep it natural and low visual impact. The proposed equipment right now is nature-based, so it's logs and ropes and things like that. It's no bright colors, no metal, just real natural and kind of very low impact visually. And kind of then circling back around, the playground is adjacent to a splash pad. This will be a way for people to actually interact with water. There'll be features it's really more of a play fountain, and that the features are just flush with the pavement. There's nothing sticking up other than the activation bollard that kids will push to activate the fountains, but there's a couple different spray nozzles, so they do a little bit different things. They'll be programmed to kind of go off and on as programmed for the bollard activation. And then finally, adjacent to that will be a new pavilion, about 30 feet in width, mono slope. So it's got one kind of slope direction, and it faces out onto the big event lawn, which is about 1 acre in size. Again, very open, flexible. Riverfront can really host anything out there. Gives people to throw a Frisbee, kick a ball. Though, we're not obviously promoting active regulated activities like that, but so that, that kind of rounds out kind of this core area. There's circulation around that ties it all together. There's some picnic kind of grows off of that lawn area and kind of the grayish area to the southeast. And then kind of looping back around, you can kind of access, again, the playground. You can kind of come back around to the parking lot drop-off area. And then off of that drop-off area where the old beach was, will be a new proposed kind of kayak canoe launch. This will be constructed of floating docks, will be deployed seasonally and removed for winter time. One late addition to the plans was the requirement for safety launch, and this is really to deploy a small watercraft as Riverfront envisions programs of water activities that people may need assistance out on the water, mobility impaired, et cetera. So that's their primary reason, is to have small craft that gets deployed during those times when people are out there for that. And it will only be for riverfront recaptures use. There'll be a bollard there when it's not in use, et cetera. But obviously, the dock itself is open to anybody with a canoe or kayak to go out there. The old beach, as I mentioned earlier, the deep report deemed this water quality not sufficient for swimming. We heard a lot from public input that we'd love to see swimming here someday. So the idea currently is that the beach area will be left to kind of renaturalize as it is today. If water quality ever improves or Deep gets out there and does something to improve it, we've made some provisions that that beach could be reopened in the future if that ever happens. And as part of that, adjacent to the, it's pulled out of the plan currently, but we did plan for a future addition to the amenities building where we would have showers and changing space if that ever occurred. Obviously, you would come back at that point for that, but so we have made provisions for that hope that we could have swimming back here again. So leaving that core activity area, there's kind of a sweeping loop trail that meanders around and south of there. Most adjacent to the pond itself is a new boardwalk. It traverses the same location as the paved path does today. That paved path often gets flooded. There's boards out there that people kind of walk across when it's wet. We feel that that's a nice complement to kind of keep that circulation on site. So we've elevated that with a boardwalk, again, allowing that hydraulic connectivity to continue. And then as part of that work, we'll remove those asphalt pads we saw in the aerial and restore that back to wetland as part of this project as well. That boardwalk reconnects to the paved section of the walkway, kind of a road that meanders through the trees on the west side of the meadow. And this is where we'll concentrate, as historically has been, kind of the picnic grove. So there'll be tables out there. There'll be a series of pavilions that will be covered with tables. There'll be grills out there. There'll be hot coal ash dispensers, metal containers for that, for safe disposal. And just, again, nice kind of grove shaded spot that you can get nice views back over to the pond. And off of that, we heard a lot from our research and public and even people out there when we've been out there is bird watching is very popular out here. So we wanted to promote that and really celebrate that. So we're proposing kind of an elevated observation platform right where Shannon's cursor is. That'll be the same boardwalk material used on the piece adjacent to the pond. And it's just, again, kind of gives you an elevated designated place. We've pulled it back away from the water. It gives you kind of the expansive view of the wet meadow in front in the foreground and the pond in the back. And you can see, you'll be able to see over kind of the growth that's right at the water's edge from that elevated position there. And just, the far left of the rendering, you can kind of see where that trail connection reconnects to this piece just that we talked about previously. One thing about that trail that I failed to mention before was shortly after you kind of leave this page, there will be an intersection where you can either go south, continue south to the boat ramp, or you can continue up to Batterson Park Road where there'll be a new crosswalk proposed to connect to Bagadan Way in the corporate park and the new residential area there. We're hoping we can draw those people into the park and just keep the park activated during the week. Obviously, weekends are more popular, but to get people out there for a lunchtime stroll or something like that Again, just to get those people out, into the park and more eyes, the better. Next, actually keep on that one. The lower right side, there's a kind of a new formalized trail proposed there. This will be just a stone dust surface trail. And this is meant to connect you back to Batterson Park on the east side of the pond. And again, kind of capture that neighborhoods that are on that side of the pond by the dam. It's currently used now as, kind of a walking trail within the grass. Riverfront wants to formalize that for ease of maintenance long-term, so we're providing a new trail connection through there. Next slide. This is just some plans and elevations of the guard shack. Again, just really one staff person there as needed, heated and cooled for them. There'll be a small overhang where they can park their utility vehicle or golf cart or whatever they kind of use to kind of mobilize around the park. The finish, right now we're proposing a stone veneer on the lower half, cement fibers, clapboards on the upper half, asphalt shingle roof, very simple, as you kind of arrive at the park. Next slide. This is the park amenity building with the floor plan. You can see on the left side of the floor plan, we have the covered canopy space. Then we have the concession space. The restrooms are centered right in the middle of the building. And then on the right side are kind of two office spaces as needed. And then the elevations there, again, asphalt shingle roof, cement fiber clapboards on the upper portion, stone veneer on the lower portion. As part of this building, there'll be security lighting involved, motion detected, censored, no full-time lighting otherwise. This will be, condition space. It will be seasonal though. And then we'll have automatic locks so that locks and unlocks itself at designated hours. Next slide. This is plan and elevations of the maintenance garage. There'll be 4 bays. One of those bays will be heated for winter maintenance equipment. And then kind of sandwiched in the middle will be office space, restroom, break room, again, for staff that are out there. And then the elevation's very simple, again, pre-engineered, prefabricated metal structure, corrugated siding, roofing. Again, the idea is that this really kind of disappears in the background and doesn't represent a visual impact. Next slide. Site lighting. We're going very minimal with site lighting, and it's really just there in the odd case that something goes a little bit late, or the maintenance staff needs some lighting or something, and the post top fixture that you see there is kind of traditional battery park fixture. Again, kind of taking that standard from City of Hartford parks. That fixture is dark sky compliant. There will be 2 poles kind of in this pedestrian spine in the core area, and then there will be 1 pole right at the park entrance onto Batterson Park Road. And then that's the other fixture here is just the wall pack that will be at the doorways and strategically around each of the buildings on motion sensors for egress lighting, et cetera, security. There's talk that the City of Hartford will also have cameras out here. We're working with the police department and their security consultants on that and how does that function. as well. But again, lighting, and Rob Allen from Riverfront Recapture can talk a little bit more about those operational hours. But again, very minimal. We want to respect the visuals that are out there, the views from New Britain across the pond. We don't want to light this up like Walmart. So it's very, very minimal lighting. Next slide. Looking at the proposed driveway, obviously, we had some engineering done on that. We looked at the intersection site distance. We looked at the regulations, make sure we're far enough from the intersection with 2 Mile Road and Barrison Park Road. We used a 10 mph over the posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour. We got sufficient sight lines as you kind of move north from Finneman Road along Batterson Park Road. There's a curve there, but we have sufficient sight lines with some minimal clearing within the upland area there. There's also some, there's some flagging out there for the benefit of the Wetlands Commission, but there's flagging out there that represents that site distance. Next slide. Now we're going to go through just some renderings. This is a proposed view of the entrance coming into the park. You can see the median in the center, 2 divided in exit lanes, the guards shack in kind of the distance. To the far left is the meadow area. That meadow area remain as is. We'll have some wood guardrail there just to control access to it. But we also recognize that we may need to use that meadow for additional parking as it had traditionally been done. So we've added a couple kind of curb cuts, so to speak, there to just get people in and out of that space as needed. And then you can see kind of the pull off spaces for the entrance and into the park. Next slide. This is a view as if you're exiting your vehicle and kind of walking down the pedestrian spine into the core area. You can see the restroom amenities building on the left. You can see the splash pad kind of the front center, the other pavilion to the kind of upper right, and then the expansive event lawn in the background, and just the openness of this plaza, new tree plantings to provide shade and cooling. Next slide. This is a view, you're on the plaza now. You have the splash pad on the right and the event lawn, the amenities building on the left, the view of the playground and kind of the center of the image, and then the pond in the background. This rendering represents the kind of improved picnic grove, the new pavilions, other tables scattered about the existing mature trees. You can see the wetland meadow on kind of the left side and the proposed observation platform in the background. Next slide. This is an aerial view of the proposed drop-off area. And adjacent to that is kind of our wetland stormwater management part of the park. All the drainage from the impervious surfaces kind of enters a series of rain gardens, bioretention swales, and then will slowly dissipate back out into the pond, maintaining the current hydraulic flow as there is today. A couple of features, you'll be able to traverse over those kind of wetland, stormwater crossings. And we hope that these can be an educational aspect of the park as well as just kind of visualize how do we responsibly manage stormwater and clean it before it gets discharged to a water body. Next slide. And then this is an aerial as if you're kind of hovering over the maintenance garage, looking south, the parking lot in the foreground, and the event lawn, many space plaza in the middle ground, and then the wetland and meadow in the background with the boardwalk on the left, the observation platform kind of in the center, and then the wooded picnic grove on the right side. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Rob Allen with Riverfront Recapture. He's gonna talk more about the park operation and maintenance side.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioner. Rob Allen with Riverfront Recapture. We're based out of Hartford. One of the main reasons this kind of taking it on together tonight, all of our public meetings, there's a lot of questions about the park operations. And while these are subject experts on designing a park, we've been recruited from the state of Connecticut and the city of Hartford to actually manage the park. And those are important questions. And I'm sure you guys will have some tonight. We're a nonprofit organization. We manage municipal and state property, primarily 4 parks, East Hartford and Hartford. We're in the process of building a 5th park in Windsor that'll also have state property. We also manage the Founder's Bridge in Hartford, which you probably see on the news every single night in the live shot. We manage those flags and the pedestrian walkway. Our foundation for our operation is safe, clean parks. That's what we base everything we do on, safe, clean parks. We were approached by the state of Connecticut, and while our mission is connecting people to the Connecticut River, we manage waterfront parks. And when they came up with this, the guardrails were interesting to us. It's a passive use park, open 365 days a year, and there's no swimming in the foreseeable future. Those are some manageable expectations. And the exciting part, or the hook for us, is that we got to be in on the ground floor and not just manage a park that somebody else designed and handed over. We got to be a part of it right from the beginning. We know how to do parks. We know what works and what doesn't work. We know what the trends are, best practices, and we keep up on all of that. So this was really appealing. It's free to everybody. It's not just Hartford residents. That's it. It's free to everybody. Open 365 days a year. Yes, on Christmas. Yes, on Thanksgiving. You can take your family walks. We open at sunrise and we close at sunset. And we apply that to every single park that we have and that we maintain. We'll have some picnic areas, bathrooms, a playground, a splash pad, and walking trails. We're going to have dedicated staff to the park. That's the importance of the maintenance building. Operating this remotely isn't going to work. It's not going to work to our standard. And we're going to be judged on this for a long, long time to come. So having a maintenance building on site where we can have our staff based out of there, including a full-time year-round groundskeeper assigned to all the maintenance, the mowing, the trash collection, the repair, whatever it is, they're going to be there. In addition to that, we'll have park rangers. With the heavy presence from Memorial Day to Labor Day, your peak operation in park times, and then roving patrols throughout the year. We have a partnership with our public safety officials in every town and municipality that we work in. Access is always a priority for them, whether it's Knox box for the fire department, key cards for the police department, whatever it is. And we can also information share. The cameras and the surveillance equipment, that's standard in City of Hartford buildings. So they're applying it to this project. That can be remotely viewed by us, the public safety entity of Riverfront Recapture, or the Hartford Police Department, and it can be shared with the Farmington Police Department. That's already in process. We do that with other municipalities as it is right now. A goal is the adherence to ordinance and rules. It's the keys to success. Order is a key to success in a park. There's no audio systems. There's no loud music, no generators, no portable grills. You can't bring in tents, no bounce houses. Dogs must remain leashed. And anything that we have, I caution using the word event in the park. Anything will go through our own internal permit review and process. And a lot of the comment that we got were concerns about events and stuff happening out there. when you see an event in our parks, it's a partnership either with the community or the municipality. So if there's a community group that wants to do something in their local park, they'll coordinate with us. In a smaller park in East Hartford, there's a charity walk, there's a Pops concert, jazz concert that happens from 6 PM to 8 PM in July, and a number of smaller local band concerts hosted by the town of East Hartford. So those are the events that we have in our parks. There was some talk about camps and groups and stuff like that. Batterson Park has always been a partnership with Camp Current right across the street there. So we were acutely aware of that. We have schools that are actually border some of our parks now. And over the years, we've noticed that they are not allowed to walk kids across streets to get to parks. They'll actually put them on a bus and drive them around the block to the entrance of the park and drop them off. So we did make accommodations for that. We think it's important. We don't think it's going to be often taken advantage of, but it's important in being a partner to the community that we're coming into. So we recognize that in a lot of the comments. And, Camp Current reached out as soon as they saw our name in it. And, our two CEOs have been going back and forth and talking about stuff. So you can dispel we rent out our parks. It's never happened. It'll never happen. We do a very large food truck festival in the downtown park in Hartford. That only happens because there's a Kineticon at the conference center and an event at the Science Center. We partner with those organizations to coincide with their event and make it something. So it's not, it wouldn't work in this venue. That's not what this venue is. This is a passive use park. So based on all of that, I could go on for a while, but there were so many questions in the public comment sections that I figured it's a good time, and unless you had anything to add, Jess.
No, I wouldn't add anything else. Shannon, if you want to just go to the next slide. I did include, there were some questions about just what will be maintained out there. Obviously, there's a lot of land, a lot of acreage, and discussions with Rob and his team on what will be mowed as traditional lawn and what will be seasonally mowed as meadow to maintain habitat, but also keep woody invasives and those type of things out of those areas. So this diagram depicts in the green those areas that would be mowed on a consistent weekly basis. Those are the primary core areas, the event lawn, the picnic grove in amongst the trees. And then in the yellow shaded areas, those would be the areas that would be primarily maintained seasonally, mowed once or twice a year at best. And really just left to be, again, that pastoral aesthetic that's out there today. Because we understand that that's, again, one of the attractive features of this park in central Connecticut that's highly urban, suburbanized, having those types of nature based areas are key. So with that really concludes our presentation. We understand we've given you a lot of information. Obviously, we've been at this with the town for quite some time. We've had a second round of comments from the town staff that we're currently working through. We're also in the process with inland wetlands due to the nature of the proximity to the pond and all the natural resources. But we'll open up for questions.
Thanks so much. All right, Matt,
All right.
off to you.
Good evening. My question is on traffic. Yeah, I see you have 90 static spaces, 100 overflow, and it's all feeding into Batterson and possibly down 2 Mile Road. Have you done a traffic study and what's the impact there?
We haven't done a formal traffic study. It's, the whole point of kind of pulling that new park entrance off of where it is today is we get that kind of relieve that bottleneck at that corner. It's a two-way stop corner now. It's also within that residential kind of portion of the project area. So we felt that putting on Batterson Park Road captures the traffic coming northbound off of Finneman, captures 2 Mile Road, and kind of captures it sooner than later. We're not talking a lot of vehicles. We're not talking a lot of turnover either. So we haven't done a formal traffic study, but we feel the impacts are quite minimal.
Thank you. I'm all set.
Good, okay. Bob?
Okay. Forgive me if I'm not overly excited with this, but it seems like we've been here before. I've been to the town hall meetings. I've been to the informational sessions. I remember the picture with Mayor Thomas and Mayor Stewart and Mayor Bronin, and everybody took pictures out there, and the neighbors got all excited that Batterson Park was finally going to get something done. And then it fizzles out again and they get the candle blown out. So I feel for the neighbors in the area, because every time we go in front of them and say, nope, there's revitalization, and then it just disappears. So that being said, do we have a cost budget? And is Hartford going to be able to maintain it? Or is this going to get benchmarked again because they can't afford it?
So the last time it fizzled out is when the Speaker of the House, Matt Ritter, got involved. And he said, we understand we can't burden the city of Hartford, the town of Farmington, and the city of New Britain with this cost. How can we do it differently? So he earmarked an allotment of money for design and construction. And then more recently, Riverfront Recapture was included in state legislation to be funded through the DEP and Passport for Parks. So that's your funding. There isn't a question mark. The city of Hartford will not be funding this.
Okay.
Passport for Parks will be funding this. So this will be funded similar to a state park. And part of the, it became convoluted with state statute. And after it fizzled out last time, everybody understood that this is a good mission. This is a good purpose. And we couldn't get all the ducks in a row. The state was going to take it over as a park. You don't want to set that precedent, though. So if a town no longer wants a property, the state takes it over. There's all kinds of legal ramifications with that. But if the city maintains ownership, a private nonprofit runs it, and it's funded by the state of Connecticut, that's all within existing legal statutes for it to be executed. So, I mean, that is the core of anything that's going forward. How do we maintain this?
And that's a great answer, because, you understand where I'm coming from. It's happened before where City of Hartford said, we're doing it. No, we don't have the money, never mind. And it's not inside the city wall, so it kind of gets forgotten about. And this is a complex piece of property because it is owned by the city, but it's neighboring with New Britain and Farmington. So there's a lot of moving pieces, as you say. That brings me to my next question. Is there some kind of op plan or some kind of agreement? Because let's face it, even though it falls in the city walls of Hartford, they're not going to be taking the first responder calls out there. So Farmington and New Britain are going to be handled.
And legally it can't. So my background is in 2013, I penned a paper on closing Batterson Park. I was a lieutenant commander in the Hartford Police Department. I was assigned to do a public safety review of the park, and ultimately, I'm sure my paper was a contributing factor to its closing in 2015. In addition to that, I was also in charge of sending out patrols on the weekends when it was busy back in the day. And I'm the commander of the Capital Region Dive Team. So I respond to the town of Farmington for whatever their calls out. So ultimately, very intimately knowledgeable of Batterson Park,
Right.
how it was run and how it needs to be run in the future. It's different. The park has evolved. Parks have evolved in general on what the expectations from the community and the town are. So statutorily, the city of Hartford could not respond out here. Even though we did in the past, we didn't have the legal authority as the city. And now I'm speaking of my previous job for the city of Hartford. Let's put it in perspective, though. So in the 25 plus parks in the city of Hartford, there are approximately 1,200 911 calls a year. People call 911 for everything in the city of Hartford. In our 100 acres of property that we manage in the city of Hartford, there's less than 5 911 calls a year. That's achieved by omnipresence. We have highly visible park rangers in the parks. We close the park at sunset. When I say we close it, every car is exited out and we leave it the way we found it and we start fresh the next morning. We are going to employ something similar to the reservoir with automated gates that the MDC uses. It's a smart approach, but from Memorial Day to Labor Day, it's going to be boots on the ground. It's going to be people there doing the job, making sure everybody's safe and making sure that stuff happens. So we'll come up with an MOU. We'll work with the DEP because unfortunately, the other key component in this is that boat launch in New Britain is actually owned and maintained by the DEP. So a lot of people aren't familiar with that. They complain that this happened over there, this happened over there. It's not the town of New Britain, it's the city of New Britain. It's the DEP. So there are a lot of different moving pieces here. We'll come up with an MOU, we'll come up with a response. I've known the chief in Farmington for a long time. We, like I said, are going to be judged on what we do out here. So before this even gets rolling, that stuff will be ironed out.
Excellent. All right. The other thing that I picked up on, which is going to be a logistical point for you guys. So there is no swimming at the park, but we're encouraging boating and kayaking.
So
you under-
the water qualities for those two activities are very, very different.
Okay.
And a passive use park, there's an appetite for canoeing and kayaking. And we run programs in the city of Hartford, and we run two different adaptive canoeing and kayaking programs. One of them is for paralyzed vets, and the other one are for paralyzed individuals or handicapped individuals outside of the military. To go and operate on a place like Batterson Park that is controlled, it's maintained, and it's safe. We put them out on the Connecticut River. This is a better place for people that live out here to exercise some of those things. The water quality, there is no plan. That's a long, there's not even a plan to study it.
Yeah.
Right now. So swimming is not in the near future, but it's an asset. That pond is an asset to the community. To not use it at all would be the
Agreed.
wrong path.
Agreed, absolutely. All right, and then the other thing, the no portable grills and all that. I'm assuming your ranger and whoever you have boots on the ground is going to prevent all that.
Yeah.
Do
So that
you have like mounted ones that they're going to be able to use?
So fixed grills.
Fixed grills?
That's the only thing we allow in our parks. It's the only thing authorized to use. And Jesse mentioned we'll have coal cans. So you
Okay.
take your coal out, you put it in there and close it, or the park ranger closes it. We usually close those grills off in the winter months when it's dry and there's no wet vegetation on the ground. So those are, I just know it. I'm glad you're asking the question so we can share it with everybody, because there's too much to go over.
Correct.
Without the back and forth and the questioning here.
Yep. All right, and then obviously the loud noise and the speaker systems and all that stuff, that'll be monitored also.
Yeah,
And
it's-
people that are not following compliance are going to be asked to leave.
Absolutely. It's
Um,
it's not allowed. That is how we have, that's how we run our parks. Once you have that compliance, that is what the community wants to see in a park. Listen, don't get me wrong. Our parks participate in movies in the park. I don't know if we do it out in this region, but one night in the summer, we play a movie in a park. And obviously it can't start until it's dark out. But that's it. We don't have sound systems. We don't encourage that. We do, every now and then we're asked to host a soccer registration or something because the fields are tied up and you want to move that action away from what's going on. Those are things that we're going to be ready for.
Okay. And then any type of like event that you're going to be hosting there or participating in, I'm assuming that's going to come through us for approval.
Well, we would comply with the existing ordinance, whatever's applied to existing parks right now, we'll follow that. I wouldn't think there will be a special ordinance for this park, but if that's what you'd.
Correct, but if they're hosting, for example, like we had, I can just off the top of my head, we had a farm in town that was hosting a movie night and a jazz fest and stuff like that. And they came in front of us for approval because it would impact the neighbors. So we're assuming that you would be doing the same thing if you plan.
If it's something that we saw would be an impact on the community, we would go through the required permit process. We're very familiar if, you know, if there's food, the health department, like we get all of that. We're a process organization. We're a procedure organization. You won't catch us on not following the rules.
Perfect. All right, I think I'm good for now.
Good questions, Bob. Thanks. Persia?
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming and for your presentation. Well, I'm relatively new to Farmington, so I don't share the same frustration as my fellow commissioner. I'm very excited. So how long do you think this project is going to take? If everything goes well, all the permits, everything?
Well, our hope is obviously we get through the town process by the end of January. We actually have, the city of Hartford has a contractor ready to go. We're working on pricing and kind of what the budget is and so forth. The goal set by the Speaker of the House is July of 2025. And we're, again, working with our contractor on what does that look like? At this point, it appears that it's going to be the new driveway, parking lot, maintenance garage, and some of that kind of core area. But some of the trails may have to kind of go to a different phase. It also depends on funding. We're trying to pursue additional funding from state to kind of do it all. But we know to kind of meet that July timeframe, some things are going to kind of have to be deferred to second half of the year of 2025. But, you know, we're hopeful that, you know, the end of 2025, there'll be a substantially improved park out here.
Thank you. One more question for you, or maybe more than one. That area, the paved area that I'm seeing, is that covered with woods and you have to clear cut it to get it there, or is it already paved?
No, so the proposed parking lot is, there's a little bit of where kind of the circle cul-de-sac is, and there's a few parking spaces. But that majority lies, yeah, you can see it there. So it covers that area, and then where the old buildings were, there's a little bit of tree clearing. There's a couple individual trees there in the middle, maybe some around the edge. But to create that parking lot area, there's no significant tree removal. The most tree removal occurs as part of the maintenance garage, kind of tucked in the pine trees there.
Thanks. So next question is, you mentioned building a playground for kids. I'm a workout junkie, and I really am I have been looking for places, outdoors places, parks that, have equipment for adults to, work out. You mentioned ropes for kids. Would you be able to, design something for, as a playground for adults too?
That's
That'll be a great attraction for people my
Yeah.
age, to the park rather than just walking or walking the dog, or it'll be a great, for,
Yeah, we could definitely work
age.
with Riverfront. I can't guarantee that'll happen right away, but certainly someday it could. I think the benefits, we have kind of this inner loop, but then if the other trail that connects down to the boat ramp, that's 2 miles out and back. That's a measured distance, but you could put some of those exercise stations along there.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
But
great idea.
again, not going to promise it anytime soon, but it's, something we could consider.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And then my last question about the water treatment, maybe you can help me with that. So is that DEP that needs to get on it? And do you have does that pressure should come from public to pressure DEP to treat the water so that it's, people can go swimming? Because that's a great thing. It's a big body of water, and I mean, swimming is it's a beautiful exercise. So.
Well, as you can imagine, it's quite complex. There was a lot of public comment during our informational meetings about getting kind of this grassroots group to kind of push the state to do something. You have a small stream here in this area that kind of drains the whole I-84 interchange mess by the Yukon Health. That contributes to it, people's backyards, dog waste, fertilizers. You know, it goes beyond public land, so you get into private and it just complicates it. And there's really no way to know for sure what's generating it. There was some studies that if you've seen or read the deep study, I would suggest you do that. But that has not only Deep's study of the water quality, but City of Hartford had hired a consultant also to look at water quality and what it would take to improve that water quality, and it was just really deemed not feasible from a financial standpoint. Could take years. So it's I would like to say that grassroots could push it along, but it's going to take some work for sure.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Yep. Liz?
Okay, a couple of things. When we were, some of the trail work, you said paved in some place, you said stone dust. Is it gonna be, when you say paved, is that like an asphalt?
Yeah, asphalt. Yep.
Ah,
Yep.
okay,
So it'll be accessible.
okay, okay. I love to see stone dust as opposed to more pavement, but I understand.
Yeah.
Let's see, now, in terms of like winter usage, would that accessible trail then be plowed? Would it just be, I'm sure you have to plow the driveways and things like that, but.
Driveways, sidewalks, access areas, anything that, public safety might require. But as far as the trails go, best practice is to not
Good.
do the snow removal.
Okay.
It's safer to walk on snow
Mm.
than it is to clear it, for it
Make it
to
simple.
melt, refreeze, it's icy,
Gotcha.
and it looks like it's plowed. So we're gonna
Right.
follow best practice.
Okay, okay, that's good to hear. And I'm glad to hear it's year round, and I'm sure you could get a group of cross-country skiers if it ever snows again in Connecticut. Got my fingers crossed. And when you were talking about events, that in some ways that's event is a loaded word. But so in other words, you're not going to say, hey, someone, Mr. and Mrs. Smith want their daughter to get married and do that. Okay.
So.
That
but
was what I
Mr.
thought.
and
I just
Mr.
want-
and Mrs. Smith can get married in any public park. So, but they will not be allowed to have catering or sound system or reserve a gazebo or anything like that. We have weddings, pop-ups all the time in parks all over the place. And we'll just make sure they adhere to the rules that every other visitor adheres to. But we're definitely not looking to schedule
Okay.
that kind of stuff. We don't do it in our current parks, and we have no intention on doing it here.
I understand, because that could be a huge nightmare. So now if Mr. and Mrs. Smith want to get married, they just have to get their friends up early and get their chairs out, right? On Saturday
served.
morning. Okay. Okay, thanks. This is it sounds exciting, and I'm very optimistic. Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, Liz. Dave?
I'm gonna be optimistic too. I'm actually glad Riverfront Recaptures working
Yeah.
with this group. I've worked with them a long time ago, and they do great work. Thanks. I really, my only question was about on the path, it's a kind of a long pathway. Any thoughts on any safety features, those kiosks, in case there's some kind of emergency or something?
So like a blue light, like if you see on a
Yeah.
college campus or something like that, that's not in the plans that would require electricity. However, we do have two maintenance and public safety vehicle turnaround spots. One of the things we've experienced is you'll have a trail that leads a mile, and you can go one direction and that's it. So we're going to have two designated positions where vehicles can turn around. If they had to go in, somebody fell, somebody became dehydrated and had to be transported out. Not only will we have John Deere Gators on site to assist public safety, but if they were to bring in one of their smaller fire apparatus or ambulance, they'll be able to do that.
All right. No other questions. Thanks so much.
Bruce?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I too am cautiously optimistic. I just want to clarify where Riverfront Recapture, I guess, is backed up by the town. Like, for example, the park rangers will be backed up by the Farmington PD, right? And you'll have relationship with them. Are there any other things that we should be aware of where the town is sort of backstopping riverfront recapture, either from the maintenance or any other area
No,
that we should be aware of?
We'll be doing all of the maintenance, everything that's required in the park on site. And I would ask you to think about, even though this is a park, apply it as any other business or entity in your town. What services do you provide them? That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for any maintenance or any funding or anything else. But if we call 911, we want to make sure you're capable. Fire department and or police department responds. That's our only ask.
So we're getting the trash? Like, are we picking?
Nope.
that up?
So we'll pick that up in-house. Our groundskeeper will be in charge of that and we'll have a dumpster and we're not asking for that kind of service.
Understood. Okay,
And
great.
you know our reputation, we're big into recycling. So that's why we like to do it ourselves because it's just, that's the only way to get the compliance with the recycling.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm all set.
Thanks, Bruce. Mike?
First question is just out of curiosity. When you said the park's completely free, does that include on holidays for like out-of-state vehicles as well? Or is there gonna be a fee for
Nope,
out-of-state?
we'll never charge a fee, regardless of where you come from. We're a blind operation. Come to our park and as long as there's capacity, you're welcome.
Okay. And do you know how many parking spaces you guys have planned at this point?
With handicap 92?
Or no,
It's like 90, right?
It's, no, it's 92, and then there's some staff parking outside of that number by the maintenance garage. And then,
Yeah.
like we talked about in the kind of the meadow up by Batterson Park Road, 2 Mile Road, that's kind of the additional as needed.
So is there gonna be a cap?
Okay, so the long trail you spoke of, is that trail existing? Like, is it already blazed or is that something you're going to do in the future?
There is a Blue Blaze trail through the woods, but obviously working with the Wetlands Commission, we're also gonna kind of walk out there and really kind of figure out where that goes and make sure we're not cutting down large trees or just kind of working our way through it. So although there's something on a plan, I can't guarantee it's gonna be exactly there. It could kind of meander a little bit more, as you kind of go down to the south.
Okay, and those access points you spoke of, are they gonna be at the trails some points for like a UTV for the fire department, EMT?
For turnarounds?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. They'll
Okay.
be strategically placed,
Mm.
good line of sight, a place that makes sense where, okay, I'm a third of the way through, now I can turn around and go back instead of having to complete the entire mile and go back.
Okay, cool. And this is planned on being paved, you said, for the most part?
Yes.
Are e-bikes allowed at this moment?
So, that's a hard question. That the answer is going to evolve in it. Right now, parks on a whole allow e-bikes to transport through or transgress through. The problem is, e-bikes from 2 years ago went at a much slower speed and they did make some noise back in the day. Now they can go 30, 40 plus miles an hour and you don't hear them at all.
Mhm.
So we're going to need to visit that and we're going to follow the guidance from the town though. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're probably going to have to address it in all of the parks. And we're going to follow your guidance on that, on what the best practice is. But I don't know of anybody that's got the right answer yet because that technology has evolved so fast that the local municipalities have not been able to keep up with it. It's challenging.
We've had.
Interesting.
Excellent. And I guess my last question is, we're concerned about water quality and such. I didn't notice any like dog poop bag stations. Do you plan on having any of those along the trail or dump sites as well, like to throw the bags?
We will. We have them and we'll strategically place them. We'll probably have 1 or 2 in the beginning. And then what we'll do is we'll see where does it make sense? Where are we seeing people go? Where do we
Yeah.
want to put it?
Where are the trouble
Because you know,
spots?
when you commit to putting it in a spot, it's the spot that nobody goes.
Yeah.
to. So because we're in charge of, one way or another, we're in charge of cleaning it up and,
Yeah.
and having a clean park. So we're going to put it where it makes sense.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
Did you have a follow-up, Bob?
Yeah, just real quick, thinking positive and optimistic. Are you gonna have a park capacity cap I know you have like 92 spots, but is there going to be a shut off where you say, listen, parks aren't capacity, you're not coming?
Absolutely. And that extremely unlikely that would ever happen outside
Let's
of the
hope.
window between Memorial Day and Labor Day. If that were to happen in that period, we've opened and managed probably the most successful park in the state of Connecticut. So we'll be back here getting some kind of award for reaching it. But that's why the gates are there, and that's why that shack is at the beginning, because we'll deploy cones, we'll close the gate, and we'll monitor it, and we'll go from there. But commonly, I mean, Riverside Park, very, very popular park, has a boathouse. In the middle of July, the most cars you'll see from a passive use park, you know, not a cricket game or a rowing event, is between 40 and 50. And that's just at peak. That's right before it gets hot in the morning, you know, that 9:30 to 10:30, 11. And that's when your peak hours are. And we'll be staffed from Memorial Day to Labor Day. There's going to be a park ranger there, and that's their job. Where it's not going to be somebody driving around in a circle waiting for a parking spot.
Awesome. Okay, perfect.
Good.
Yep.
Any other questions, commissioners? You all asked good questions because I don't have any left. You took them all. So very appreciative of the presentation, gentlemen. Very informative. I think it's time it's a public hearing, so we'll open it up to the public. And if you two gentlemen can maybe take some notes, we'll collect all the public comment and then let you respond to it in kind rather than kind of one-off, if that works. So this is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the room that would like to speak in favor or in opposition, please step up to the podium. And if you could give name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Kathy Howell-Talmont. I live at 55 Batterson Drive in New Britain, directly on the pond, directly across from the park. We've lived there for over 20 years. The last 10, we watched as the park rotted.
Yeah.
Prior to its closure, we enjoyed watching the kids come down from the camp to swim. Unfortunately, they were swimming in polluted water. And I want to say, as someone who has been very involved in this, attended all the public hearings in all 3 towns, poured over page after page after page of the plans. The original plan was so bloated and so out of control, and there was never going to be enough money to do what was in that plan. This plan is really quite exceptional. It meets the needs of the people in the community. It meets the needs of people coming in from other towns. As someone who is directly impacted, I'm going to be looking across every day. I can't say how much they've improved from letting it rot to the bloated plan that was just never going to work. And my biggest fear was they're going to start, like you said, Mr. Canto, they were going to start and it was going to rot away. But this suits the needs of the public and it suits the needs of the space. And I'm very grateful that we've come to this point. I see it as being a really good plan that just suits the needs of everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. Dave Lukowski, 28 Mountain Road, Farmington, Connecticut. I would echo the same comments that the last public speaker had. I think we've kind of seen this play out for a decade now. And I think that bloated plan that was originally unveiled a few years ago was unachievable. And I think that that's really why I think it ended up in, in basically, a lot of plans in a plan file somewhere. But this one, I think, definitely meets kind of the benchmark that I think this piece of land in Farmington can provide, with the city of Hartford being the owners of it. And the fact that Riverfront has been kind of brought in, the Speaker of the House has made, I think, a real clever move in bringing an operator in that is skilled at handling parks. And I think Mr. Allen's presentation tonight, I think would really put us all at ease, that I think there aren't going to be too many things that haven't been thought about and addressed. So I think, again, a resident of Farmington, I think this is a great thing. And I think, again, the architects and engineers that have worked on this, I think they've come up with a nice solution. Where I think right now that I have a little trouble with is when I hear July 25th, and I understand what the speaker maybe wants or the people want, you know, they want progress, right? They want to show that something has to get done and let's kick this thing off, right? But being a resident of Farmington, and being on the town council, what I would caution against is I think you should really have your cost kind of really locked up and kind of understood what's in place for funding and what can be accomplished. And then make sure that the communication of what can be bought initially and what might have to play out in kind of a longer arc of time is well communicated to the people in both Farmington and New Britain. Because I think that's where you would lose quite possibly some momentum, is that, you know, people hear July 25th, they see that plan, but that plan's not going to be realized on July 25th. We all know that. And so I think it's really important to understand and communicate what can be achieved, what the timeline is over the years or years to accomplish what we see here tonight. And I think then you really have a successful project, soup to nuts. And I would only compliment the team that's put together and how it's been organized. Thank you.
Thank you.
He says we're a tag team and then he leaves me alone. We're Linda and Jim Kavanaugh. We live at 4 Winterwood Terrace, not too far from there,
over
on the other side. We're really excited about the plan and the presentations tonight. They're excellent, really. We're very happy about it. I have a quick question, though. I know that there are restrooms in the amenities station there at the big building, but are there any comfort stations or will there be any restrooms at the end where people are walking that mile or mile and a half or whatever that is? Extra ones somewhere. That was what my question was. I didn't hear there were, but it just seems like it's a big, long area, Okay, go ahead, take it away.
My question was, we see, and we've been there since 1992 on Winterwood Terrace, and we see fishermen every year, even ice fishermen come. And maybe there's no fish in there, but they still come. A few here, a few, it's a nice relaxing day for them, I guess. Is there any provisions, for fishing?
Yeah.
Why don't we wait? Because we'll have you at the
Well,
podium where it's and stuff. So we'll collect the questions.
We know it had been stocked years and years ago, but not anymore, of course. And we didn't know because if the water quality precludes that, that's fine too.
Yep.
But thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else in the room that wishes to speak on this application? All right, Shannon, online?
Check online if
Please.
anyone has called in regarding the application for Batterson Park. Please raise your hand. You'll be acknowledged to address the commission. And we do have a hand raised. So Linda, you should be able to unmute your microphone. If you could provide your full name and address. please, for us,
Hi.
And then, hi.
The picture of you all just disappeared, so I'm just talking to my computer right now. My name is Linda Bodker. I live at 49 2 Mile Road, directly diagonal to the stop sign of Batterson Park Road and 2 Mile. I've grown up here and I returned back here to the family home 12 years ago. I appreciate the presentation. I'm somewhat excited about it, somewhat optimistic. But one of my concerns, obviously, is the traffic. I appreciate the previous speaker's comments, but They don't live on 2 Mile Road, which has now become a thoroughfare to the medical center from 84 down Batterson Park and also from New Britain. So I understand why the entrance to the park would be where it is instead of where the old one used to be. But I don't know if you appreciate how much traffic there is there. And maybe somebody should do a traffic study just to be sure what they're getting into. The parking lot, I think, is overly optimistic for 90 spaces. And I drive by there and I look down, and a parking lot that large takes up so much of your open space there. I don't know if this drawing is to scale. But when I look down there at the property, it doesn't seem to be. That's just a comment. And then my other concern was I was on the Zoom meeting for the wetland, and the fact that you want to connect the trail to the New Britain boat ramp there. Who is coming up with the plan to fix that? That's my question, because if it's the DEP, I would assume that I know I'm very concerned about that, because, you're talking all about security and everything and rangers and all of that in the focus area. But is that what's going to happen at the boat launch? Because I kayak every year and I see the people who hang out down there at that boat launch in New Britain, and you don't want those people to be freely walking into the park. And I think that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, if anyone else is called in on Zoom to offer comment regarding the application for Batterson Park, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom, and you will be acknowledged to address the commission. Mr. Chair, at this time, there's no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. So would you like to respond to the comments that we got, gentlemen?
I can remember them in order. There, other than the amenities building, there are not bathrooms along. And we kept it at 1 mile out and back, and we'll have mile markers so you know how far you are walking, but that would require utilities to be run out, and it's just something that isn't possible to do on this.
Fishermen.
Fishing.
So we won't prohibit fishing. We encourage it. That's a, a pastime and a recreation that's ideally suited for that. Once we have the park up and running and maintained and we prove success, I would say that then we'll reach out to the DEP and talk about their restocking programs. They offer those programs typically at no charge, but you want to prove success first. Let's show you what we're all about, and then we'll move to that next step. But we won't be prohibiting it. Obviously, we don't allow combustion engines on Batterson Park. We never have, and that won't be authorized now either.
Awesome.
The lady that,
We have no authority to take over the DEP's boat launch or maintain it. That would require negotiations with the collective bargaining agreement with the unions for the DEP. It's so beyond what we would be capable of even initiating that would have to come probably starting with the city of New Britain, and then work from there with the DEP with those concerns.
If I may, though, you did mention entering into a memorandum of understanding with DEEP regarding how that portion of the park is going to intertwine with.
Well, it would be how they would be required to respond if something was to initiate, a public safety incident was to initiate at the boat launch.
Okay.
They already have, a gentleman's agreement with New Britain, well, they'll respond. But let's talk about when it's further. If a vehicle was to go into Batterson Park from the boat launch. In the past, Hartford would respond and take care of that oftentimes, because the DEP will respond, but it will be delayed. So we'll have to work those things out. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
No, I just,
Size of the parking lot.
Linda brought up a good point, and I don't know if it's already in your plan or not, but she has a very good point. With that new rotary, make sure when you do your timing study or your traffic study that you plan it accordingly, because it's very deceiving at like rush hour when people are getting out of Yukon. I understand what she's saying, that it's pretty backed up all the way onto the highway from that rotary.
But it was a contributing factor to us moving the entrance to the park. It's a significant cost, but we think it's important for public safety to move that entrance away from where it is. It'll add longer lines of sight. It'll give more safety to that whole neighborhood. That corner, that was probably the entrance before there was cars.
And I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that rotary is very deceiving. I live in the neighborhood. I travel it all the time, and I know exactly what she means. When right around 3:45 till about 5:15, it is backed up all the way from the rotary onto the on-ramp.
Okay.
So just take that into consideration.
Noted. I believe I addressed all.
I think so.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mike?
Yeah, gentleman mentioned that people go out ice fishing. Are you going to allow ice skating?
So hadn't thought about it typically because that there's spring fed in there. The areas, it's not consistently frozen the entire mass. I would reckon there's probably not been a lot of ice fishing recently out there.
Again, no snow, no ice.
No.
Back in the day in probably 2009, there used to be a sign out there in the middle of Batterson Park Pond on a pile of rocks that said no ice skating. We haven't even thought about that yet, to be honest with you.
Just wanted, to see if you have plans for that. And, thought of one other thing too with, was it Linda Velez?
Yeah.
Yes.
Talking about sketchy people on the boat launch or whatever. With like Bluetooth speakers, I've been out kayaking, people can really bump up the music. Do you have a way of like policing that for the people who do border? Do you like have a boat patrol, like an actual boat with your people in that?
We would not. No, we wouldn't be doing on the water enforcement or anything like that.
I'm sure it wouldn't happen a lot, but
there's
the potential.
I've probably been out there more than 24 times over the summer, this past summer. And they're on the water, no instances. There was an instance within the parking lot of the DEP with loud music. And that's something, I was with a coworker and we don't have that. So that's what omnipresence deters right there.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned there's no combustion engines. Electric engine, is there an electric motor?
So again, just like the e-bikes, back in the day, what was considered a trolling motor, back in the day, a little 12-volt battery, how fast could you go? 1 or 2 miles an hour, something like that. They've evolved a lot. We're going to have to monitor that. There isn't a state statute against trolling motors. It's for gas combustion motors, but I would not doubt that within the next couple of years, the state will have to take that up. As soon as somebody finds an electric jet ski or something like that, we're going to have to start dealing.
No boat
yeah.
necessary.
I'm not going to be the test dummy.
No.
No.
Roche will do that. Any other questions, commissioners? Are we good?
We're good.
All right, thank you. So this is still open with inland wetlands, so we can't vote on it tonight. We have to continue to the 27th. So we'll leave the hearing open and we need a motion in a second.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the City of Hartford's application for special permit for improvements to Batterson Park, including new driveway and parking area, parking support buildings, boardwalk, and picnic areas located at 95 Patterson Park Road, R20, R40 zone.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Shannon.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a few things to play with this evening.
Pushing your limits, aren't we? Look, it's coming. You didn't believe me. You didn't believe me.
But that's the wrong way. Oh, well. Oh, yes, I have to quick run to the restroom.
Apparently, we're taking a
Not
break.
too long, because
Great start.
Listen,
Yeah, no problem. I gotta load everything up anyhow. So if we want to take a couple minutes, that's fine. I'll get everything queued up.
Vikings choke every playoff, so I'm not paying that much attention
Right.
to it, but Ed would also be good.
it's funny, I'm actually like anticipating them choking.
It's almost every year. Like,
Anybody see Siri Cruise in there? You're looking at her, girl with the baby, holding her hands in the park. It's Katie and Siri Cruise.
who? Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Oh,
That's
so,
interesting.
okay.
Well, thanks for coming to one more.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for coming, Mary Jane.
Drive safe.
Yeah, be safe.
I know, right?
It's like a selling point. Where do I get a electric jet ski?
I don't want to be the test on me on that one.
You only run about 20 seconds.
And then you got a problem. You really got a problem because you
Yes.
Yeah, you'll know real quick. if
Lithium
you're
batteries
short.
and
You
water.
just sink.
great together.
Exactly. What can go wrong?
Yeah. About sailboats. You have a sailboat out there? Why not?
On the pond.
No wind.
Wind propulsion.
You know what though? They have at Winding Trails, they do little
Yeah.
sailboats.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the
I'm saying,
sunfish, there's probably,
But-
you'd probably be able to do that. Just
not
have
sure
a
I
little
wanna
Sunfish on.
fall in the water at that,
Wood
That's
Pond
the-
has them too.
right?
Woodside Lake.
Being on
Are you-
top of the water, fine. In
Paddleboard.
the water doesn't sound so great.
Oh.
Listen, it's.
And
only
if I'm in a
about-
boat, I'm probably ended up in the water.
When you start catching fish with 3 eyes, then you gotta worry.
Can you imagine that?
I didn't know the whole background on it. Yeah, it's been around that long, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while. My father.
Yeah, you jinxed it.
Too much.
I
really?
just know.
Is it a
Just
natural pond?
experience.
Is it a natural pond or is it? man-made?
I don't know, do you know, Shannon? Is that,
That's a good question. I don't.
I
Hmm.
believe it is, and then it's.
like, I know Winding Trails is not, right?
Yeah.
So Winding Trail, so Dunning Lake
Dunning,
is not,
right.
that was excavated.
That I know.
I believe Batterson Park is natural.
Hmm.
Um,
It's got some funny lines to it. I was wondering.
Yeah, it's been.
it's entirely possible.
That whole
it's
side of
been-
town's where the life used to be, Battersea Park. was
Yeah,
a
Pushed.
Oh, right.
thing, the area out was a
Pushed.
huge thing.
Yeah.
like,
Go to Batterson all the
Where's
time.
Marion?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I just used to run around. It's like 4.5
I don't know what I'm
miles.
talking
Is that a
about, like,
park?
No,
It-
so there's, actually, it's a lot of office buildings, but there was
No.
a large area out down there that apparently was like the center of nightlife in Farmington, and had like a restaurant, bar and stuff that a lot of locals
Like
used to go to, and then they, I don't remember what year it was, they mothballed the hotel. And now they've turned it into that Up House apartment complex. They came before us a couple of years ago, Up House.
Yeah.
And they converted the whole thing over to apartments and pickleball. courts and
The one over there.
There's a sports bar over there now.
Oh, yeah, that one's done.
All right, Shannon,
Go.
calling the meeting back to order.
So, the first few things we have for planners report are sign related. And so in each case, it's a tenant change, so it's a swap out of signs. This first one is Collinsville Bank at the Highland Market is being changed over to Northwest Community Bank. They are going to change out the panel sign on the monument sign at the entrance, and then the signs that are on the apexes of the building are going to be all part of the rebranding. So you can see the existing Collinsville Bank sign, and then what they're going to do is put in the Northwest Community Bank sign. If there's no objections, then this will go right to building permit and have no other formal review with the commission. There's no, it's basically a like for like.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Second one up is 2 Bridgewater. We had one here just in December, actually, for the one of the other tenants. New tenant coming in. So this is at the corner of Bridgewater and 4, and they're going to place a tenant sign. It was Charter Construction came in, and now Bridge Family Center is coming in. So there'll be 3 signs across the front that you'd be able to see from Route 4, so along this frontage, so you can see it from the intersection as you're heading westbound. And then there will also be they're going to get a logo on the glass that's at the back of the building. And I presume also they're going to have a tenant. There's a monument sign here, so they'll have a tenant panel. I don't think I saw that in the request, but I'm presuming they're going to put in a tenant panel. So again, if there is no issue, there's no change to lighting, the signage area is compliant, consistent with the other signs. No concerns, then this will move right to building permit as well.
It's good.
45 South Main, River's Edge Plaza, where the CVS is, and the Valley Fitness. Valley Fitness is changing to Elite Fitness Club. So there is no monument sign, but they are going to change the building signs. Again, a like for like replacement. It looks like there is a light bar over, I believe, Valley Fitness had been 24-hour. I don't know if Elite is planning to do the same. But there's a light bar here, so that appears to be using the same hardware and mounting and light bar. So the logo is changing on the glass as well. Again, as noted, it's blacked out behind just so that you can see it. But it will have the same similar appearance to Valley Fitness. No change. It's like for like replacement. So again, the same. If there's no objections, this will proceed right to building permit. All head nods, yes. Great. Okay, we're gonna keep moving right along. Next one is, I'm gonna go out of order. 784 Farmington Avenue, HVAC units. So 784, I've got Chase Bank. This is the Backage Road. Okay, we've got Chase Bank here at the
okay.
front.
Yep.
784 is the building that got relocated to the back.
Yep.
They already have 2 HVAC units that are wall mounted because there's 2 first floor spaces. You'll recall Bob Weiner was in here 6 months ago-ish to convert this to apartments.
Yep.
So they're going to be 2 2-floor apartments. So now we've got bedrooms on the 2nd floor. So now he needs 2 more heat pumps. These are going to be ground mounted, and the existing heat pumps are wall mounted at the edge of the buildings. These ground mounted units are going to come in just to the inside edge of those, so that the arborvitae will still provide screening. The arborvitae's closest to the building will come out, but and kind of be repositioned a little. His intention is to leave of this triple bay window, this middle bay will still be visible. This is in Farmington Center and Farmington Village District. So it does have architectural design review for any exterior change. This all was forwarded to Tim Eagles to explain this to him. He agreed this did not warrant an ADRC independent review, given the screening's already there. This one dead arborvitae will be replaced with one of the 2 here in the center that need to be removed. So everything will just get shuffled and should be really without any issue. They're gonna be similar size, they're gonna be the cream color. For all intent and purpose, it'll blend into the building and then, again, the screening's in place. So if you're good, I'll sign off. The building
Sounds
permit is
good.
with me, so I'll just go ahead and sign. All right, next one, again, this is, I'm taking this out of order. We're gonna go. I was contacted, there's gonna be some work done at Tungus Mead. The
Mm.
bathrooms for the soccer field, so the main. We've got the new turf field that went in, there's a playground, there's a pavilion, and then there's the bathrooms. We've been made aware that there is some work that's gonna be done on the bathrooms. Interior painting, interior work on the floor, new fixtures, sinks, toilets, etc. All the fun glamour stuff. The
Mhm.
exterior of the building is going to be painted,
You too.
and the bituminous sidewalk that comes up to it is going to be replaced with concrete. So the longevity will be improved,
Mhm.
and the ADA accessibility will be improved. So again, unless it's for the most part, we don't have the final details exactly on how the sidewalk is coming up from the stone dust path up to the restrooms. I know there is one that comes in from the back and kind of wraps around right now. I don't know if that's the intent, but regardless, it's logic has it's going to come off the stone dust path up to the restrooms. It might have to take a slightly different route in order to modify slopes and work with the topography. If you're good, we're just gonna handle this at the staff level and
Yep.
not require a site plan with this.
Sounds good.
There's an AED there too.
Okay, so we're gonna move now to some fun stuff. Yeah, you're gonna like this. So we're gonna start with the request and discussion regarding food truck.
Mm.
There is the individual that brought this to our attention. I believe he has hung in with us for this. So we were approached, it was brought to our attention that there was the intent to have a food truck business start operation in Farmington in January, February, March, in the vicinity of one of the trails. Farmington's regulations currently do not allow for mobile eateries. I can show you in the regulation. When we talk about restaurants and drive-throughs and all, it specifically excludes mobile eateries. So, and that's been a long standing. And I did not go to define long standing. I didn't go back. To try to research it. At the moment, I don't find it relevant. So, but if any of you do find it relevant, then we can certainly start to dive into that. The discussion now is there is someone interested. I think perhaps our visions and thought of what food trucks might be, and as opposed to a food cart right down in New York City or
Mhm.
Boston or even in Hartford selling hot dogs, a food truck has taken on a different meaning for us. Particularly, I'll say the last 5 to 10 years, along with breweries, et cetera.
Mhm.
So now we need to decide, because right now it's a prohibition in Farmington. So if we want to open this door, the only way to do this is a regulation change.
Yeah,
So Garrett, God bless him.
we love
Yeah,
Garrett.
We love Garrett.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's just put it out there, right?
Garrett likes doing it. This is
Love
great.
God
And
bless.
Garrett-
Somebody has to love it. Let's just,
This is Garrett's wheelhouse. He's on as well too. So he's hung in.
I'm sure he's feeling the love right now too.
He should. That's okay. So as I noted in the email to you, because this kind of came in a little bit post agenda review. We've researched Canton, West Hartford, Enfield, New Britain, and Bristol. And those we have as their regulations and how they handle food trucks. Garrett checked with Avon, Simsbury and Glastonbury, and there's no mention of food trucks in the regulations. Plainville, obviously Garrett has familiarity with, from his prior experience. And the regulation, the site plan requires a site plan in commercial or industrial zone, provided the vehicle doesn't take up any of the required parking spaces. Farmington Valley has very limited requirements with respect to requiring restrooms and how they define if there's permanent seating, then restrooms are required. If there's not permanent seating, there's no restrooms. Picnic tables, interestingly, are not permanent seating. So,
I was gonna say, what would permanent seating at a food truck look like?
well, if it's not.
Then
picnic
it becomes
tables,
a
I'm not really
restaurant,
sure
doesn't
what
it?
it is. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's what I'm getting
so,
at too.
Yeah, it's.
Or all the pods in Portland, Oregon.
So part of the discussion is,
It's weird.
do you think, do we want, do you, is there an appetite, is there an interest in in pursuing and investigating further a regulation change? Obviously, there's an interest. This gentleman wanted to start like last week, so. You know, and I had to explain, I explained where we were with this and he's been appreciative of the research that's been done. We've kept him up to date. All the information I've shared with you, I've shared with him as well. I don't know that we'll get this done in quite the time frame that he would like, but we'll certainly persevere. But Garrett and I need some feedback to understand. We've got some thoughts, but the first thing is like, nope, we don't want them. We're gonna keep doing what we've been doing. Or, yeah, we've got an interest in pursuing and allowing these and seeing what kind of parameters we can put in it. So that's kind of the first question I need to float out there. Because if it's an absolute, no, we don't want to change it, then
So when I think of a food truck, I think of someone operating a home business, a truck, and they're driving to different places. Are you talking about specifying certain places where we actually have kind of parked trucks?
correct. Yeah, where we could park in Farmington. So right now, what we allow and have allowed is if somebody's having a graduation party.
Yeah.
Right? Or a birthday party or whatever, you know.
Pine Farm has them all the time for their
The
events, yeah.
pizza truck comes and a chicken truck and a ice cream,
The cupcake.
but it is for that party,
Mhm.
right? Somebody 3 blocks away isn't coming and paying that person to purchase a slice of pizza out of a private party, right?
Gotcha.
So if it's for a private party and it's a 1-day thing for a private party on private premise, fine, go do that all day long, as it's not creating a traffic noise, right? All the other things that we look at, right? Polo Club for the polo matches,
Mhm.
they have their own truck that they use on their premise, but again, they're serving the people that have come to watch polo.
Yeah.
If I haven't paid to come watch polo, I can't go to that food truck.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is someone saying, I want to park in, I'm gonna say Stop and Shop parking lot. Okay, that's not where we were asked, but
Right.
we're gonna use it, all right? So everybody knows where it is, Stop and Shop parking lot. And I wanna sell pizza out of there 3 days a week on this particular time. And anybody that's coming through Unionville at any point in time
And stop and pick up a
can
slice.
stop and pick up their pizza at the food truck.
It can be hungry.
Um,
It is.
so, and you could pick that, you know, and again, I just picked Stop and Shop because it was
Yep.
easy off the top of my head, right? So without trying to get into site specific type stuff. So you could say the same thing, Dollar General, you know, we could go into Farmington
Right.
Center and say Brickwalk Shops or, you know, in where we were just talking about Rudolph's place and the apartments
mean-
there and having.
Isn't
something.
there an in-between
for it.
thing too, where you have like
Oh,
an
thank
event
you.
that's open to the public? Because I thought there was one they did every year, like on Route 6 where those office buildings
So
are?
we have allowed that, but Bill Warner, it started with Bill Warner. They've done it 2 or 3 years. There was a food truck weekend.
Right.
Right.
At, Fishman's property on Waterside Drive off of Route 6.
That's the place.
I think they did it once or twice. And it's either the second or third time it got a little too big, and I think they had some concerns with traffic control, traffic management. But that would have been, I think they had 15 trucks. I went
Oh,
through it
wow.
the first year.
I mean,
And they did come in for approval, so they
Yeah.
came in, so it came in as a special event permit, and I believe Bill had them either get a site plan or a special permit for it, and then it was renewed based on, it went well year 1, okay, you can do it again year 2, and these are the parameters for it.
So what,
So
right.
this would be figuring out in limited zones,
yeah,
right, that we would allow a food truck or trucks to park basically at an existing lot, be it a retail or commercial or office location, and allow then this food truck entity to sell their food, whatever food, be it, again,
Mhm.
coffee, pizza, chicken sandwiches,
Right.
whatever
Whatever it
type of
is.
thing.
Yeah.
And what type of parameters do we think? So that's as a benchmark. I think we're looking, if it's something that we think we want to do, I think we should start with Canton. So if you're gonna look at those, you can look at the other one. The other ones are shorter. Canton's the longest, but it discusses, it took West Hartford's that had like a multi-vehicle.
Yep.
Their
and
park.
then
it's a park,
it
yeah.
did, so it did both. It did an isolated one, and it also did a park for Canton. So Canton took West Hartford and then built upon it. I would take Canton's and
Build upon it again.
build upon it or
Tweak it.
reshape it. But we've got to figure out, again, I'm back to our first question is, do we even want to do you want to put your toe in the water on this?
These guys are chomping at the bit down here. I
I-
want to hear what they have to say. They're like desperate to say something.
Food trucks, if you go back 15 years, it was a totally different experience than it
Right.
is now.
Yep.
Right, these are high quality chefs that are doing like some really
Yeah.
interesting stuff with food.
That can't afford.
makes
brick and mortar,
sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
would
agree.
add on this one again, I think it's a service to the town. It's gonna be a lot of work. It is gonna be a lot of work putting parameters in, but I think it's something that we need to consider as a benefit to the town, because I'm thinking of 2 or 3 spots that would, be a home run, not so much for the food truck, I mean, for the food truck too, but as a benefit for like where the town's going, you know what I mean? Or, a place in a utility spot where there's offices, like Matt's saying, there's some high quality food trucks out there. I mean, New Haven's had
Yeah.
great success, and there's a reason why people go out there, and there's a reason why it got up to 15 trucks in 2 years is because it's the trend.
Yeah.
know?
There's a really, really good food truck in Torrington that fantastic coffee. It's like it's become a hub of all, young folks going and really, really good coffee. And I think if it's like a good food is guaranteed kind of, because if they don't provide good food, then they're gonna go.
Yeah, they won't last.
Yeah, there's no way they're gonna survive. So I think it's also a way of supporting small local business.
And the best tacos I ever had was out of a food truck in
Mm.
Grand Canyon.
It makes sense to get in front of it before all of a sudden something pops up and someone,
Sounds
drives
too
into
late.
Stop and Shop and pulls over and says, oh, yep, here we go. I wouldn't put it past someone. I would hope not, but I think it is something we need to explore. And, if the time comes and we ever get a brewery, since every other town has a brewery, it seems,
Right.
you know, they are a natural fit. I mean, but, you know, I think it's something we should definitely explore.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I love food trucks. I love breweries too. We put breweries. Great.
Now we know what Dave's interested in. We've got it,
Okay.
we've got it locked in.
Duly noted.
I just wonder, yeah, so another way, how do we benefit from it? So we've got a business here, benefit from the taxes. You got a food truck here, you're pretty much benefiting very short term and quickly for probably just a license. Is that right?
From a tax standpoint, I honestly have no idea, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Why
I don't
not?
know. Be a license, Farmington Valley's involved. There's taxes that are paid as a business, and I guess I depend if we're, yeah, I don't know. So they're right, because there's not a brick and mortar, so there's their DMV tax on their vehicle, I guess, depending upon where it's registered and what municipality it's ultimately registered in.
Right.
I don't know
They-
how all that
yeah.
works.
Yeah, I'm also picturing though, if like people flock, a bunch of food trucks flock to a spot, like competition
Well,
for
but that's-
spaces,
so
that's
we-
right.
But that's part of it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Right, so.
Yeah.
Part of what we.
So this was
we-
just the first, so I'm getting a general yes. We got two more. I'm assuming this trend is continuing down.
Indeed, count me in with the other part of the table. I also looked at Canton and thought they had great operational requirements. I think it's a place to start. I love the idea of having, some of the higher end food capabilities and it would be a real attraction. So I think it's a net benefit, and I think we should get in front of it. I think as somebody said, let's do it.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not opposed. I just curious how it fit with the noise ordinance. Don't a lot of food trucks have to hook up the generators too?
Yeah, some of them, the gentleman we were speaking with said because the generator, that's something they're concerned about too, because the generator's right there and they have to transact business. And he said the generators, if you're using a quality generator, a new quality generator that's working and operating properly, it's
not as loud.
firing, it's not. It doesn't create a noise issue.
Right, a
He's
lot
like,
of
I can carry on a conversation
Propane too,
and
right?
he's got it right there at the end of the truck to run what he needs to run.
RVs.
Okay, so with that then, and it is getting late, I don't want to belabor this, but if there are parameters, right, that you're thinking of, or you visited a food truck and something worked or something didn't work, you're like, oh my God, this was awful because of whatever. We need that, like if there's something or there's an area of town, so from an operational parameter, something you've seen work or doesn't work, or something you have a concern of that you want to make sure that Garrett and I are attentive to. Which zones in town? Right? So obviously not the residential. I was thinking initially just our CR and C1 zone, see how it goes. And that would work for the individual that's made an inquiry. If it works well, then we can look at BR, B1. We can look at whatever, our midpoint development, our special innovation floating zone. But that was my initial thought, is to limit it to CR, C1. I am not opposed to looking at Unionville Center, Farmington Center, right? But I think the wider geographical area, then we have to be more cautionary with some of the parameters initially. So I'm not opposed if somebody feels strongly that it needs to be more than CR or C1, but just so you understand what my initial thought was from a benchmark in a geographical area.
What I was trying to think about was we've been talking, I was going to disagree with everybody, but it doesn't matter now because everybody's in favor of it. Just on principle now do we consider initially like not putting them near where we have significant restaurant activity already?
Good call.
Like I don't remember if CR
Yes.
gets us that, but
So typically it's our Brickyard Road. There's a little bit in Unionville. There's New Britain Avenue all the way down.
yep.
So not heavily. You're gonna get that more on
Yep.
Farmington Center, Unionville Center from a restaurant standpoint.
Yep.
And more in are B1 zones.
Yeah, that would lead me to like starting small.
Right.
But that's
And-
one of the, so the Canton regulation has a, like a 500-foot distance. Unless that particular property, that entity wants, if it's a compatible.
Yeah.
Like, right, if it's an offset, if one's a breakfast, like if it's a on-the-ground
True,
breakfast
true.
place.
Yep,
And the food truck is an evening dinner sandwich place, and they want to pair up that way.
yep,
then
yep.
They should be allowed to do, so it's that kind of idea.
Fair enough.
All right,
Does
I
one
just-
really cannibalize from the other, though? I mean, they're different experiences where you go to a restaurant to sit down and I don't, I saw that reg and thought about it and thought, well, I don't really see it because they don't seem to be in conflict. You go to one or the other for very different reasons.
I believe it's gonna come down to, right, and something like that, so I'm thinking Farmington Center where we've got, and it's actually B1 zone, but it's in the Farmington Center area, right? You've got Naples and Fork and Fire, that happens to be the same owner.
Right.
Two restaurants, very different experiences,
Correct.
right? But he's a lease tenant, so you would need the owner, right? You couldn't bring a food truck in unless the owner agreed to it.
True.
And it
Yep.
would be whatever the lease
Yep. Bringing
parameters
in
are, so if
competition,
there's
right?
exclusions in lease, then that's
Yep.
already in there and you can do it, right? So you
True.
need the owner's support, right? You can't just go park a food truck without having the owner authorization.
Right.
A logical place to be, the medical center. But
But
that's not
state land,
us.
So we don't
mean-
even regulate, they could go, and that's, I said, you could go do that all day long and I can't say anything about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
so
right,
that's
because it's,
state land. so
I'm,
I
I'm
can't
just
say-
kind of like surprised. So there must be some regulation, not that I've spent a whole lot of time up there, but
So.
Probably not.
I
So-
try to avoid it.
As you're perusing things and as you, if nothing else, if you looked at the Canton regs, that would be helpful for us because that's gonna be our platform then and our launch point. Parking, pedestrian access, seating, garbage and recycling. Okay, so those are all things that I need
Consider.
percolating.
Mhm.
If you have something, because I think about these things, as I'm doing something else and vacuuming, and if all of a sudden you have an epiphany regarding food trucks, just email us.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
But in the meantime, in the next week, what we will try to do, we are going to, in an effort to try to assist this gentleman that came to us to begin with,
Mhm.
we are going to try to endeavor to expedite this and try to get a draft reg to you for, try to do this so that it would be accepted at the next meeting for a hearing in February. Even then, would have lost 2 months. The meeting that will be in the second.
Just out of
second
curiosity,
meeting.
what type of food?
Excuse me?
What type of food?
I'm not gonna get,
Bob wants to know if he should expedite it or.
Yeah,
I-
right, let's
That's
go.
what he's getting at.
I'm gonna stay silent.
Listen,
on that.
s'mores, I'm in.
So, but,
Why?
but that's just so you know, from a timing standpoint, that's what we're gonna try to do. So this is a quick percolation, which is also why I want to try to keep it in a narrow area initially, because we are gonna turn this around kind of.
Yep.
Yeah.
quick,
Better to
right?
start slow anyway.
Definitely.
I don't want to cast a wide net. I want this net to be
Right.
pretty restrained, so we don't get into trouble.
Do we allow ice cream trucks?
Um,
They're not fixed, I know, like.
It's the fixed part. That's the.
Oh, they
I,
Do they?
don't have a comment on that.
That's a no, but we don't enforce it?
Okay,
So
Bob, we're not talking
would we
about it.
include them in this then, when we think about it?
it would probably,
They're gone anyway, so.
yeah, in some fashion, yes, I would suggest that we do. in
Especially for
a
a child safety pedestrian. point of
liberal
view.
fashion.
Mhm.
So, okay. One other thing, is a signs in
Oh,
open,
yeah.
so I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
leave food truck, okay,
Yeah.
everybody
Mhm.
understands their assignment for food trucks, okay.
Right.
Signs, open signs. So, and this is one that came out at you on Friday evening,
Right.
after what I will say was a laborious hour and a half meeting with Bruce and Garrett on Friday morning. and we all did not like each other at the end of that meeting.
Oh, goodness. Well,
See that
Okay.
tongue in cheek.
That's awesome.
It was a, well, we had.
It was a Friday, so.
If you ever wonder, like, if we like kind of vet these things out, you could be a fly on the wall on Friday morning at that meeting. It was entertaining to say it the least, but so illuminated open signs, as I put in the email on Friday afternoon, are, for all intent and purpose, are not permitted in Farmington. There are a handful back in 2004 that were already in existence when
Yeah.
the regulation came in that no longer made them allowed. Or put it in writing anyway. So those are now considered existing non-conforming. As Shannon's been driving around since November 15th, the amount
Need
of,
blinders.
oh, my husband has wanted to throw me out of the vehicle more times.
Pull over.
So anyhow, the amount of illuminated open signs, in my opinion, has grown. I have found it quite noticeable. Again, these are things that I look at. I look at a little weird, we look at weird stuff in the zoning office that catches our eye. So it may not have caught any of your eyes, which is fine.
I have noticed
I
a few.
need it to start catching your eye, and we need to decide what we want to do with this.
Where I go to the dentist.
What I did do is in late November, December, I had a conversation with Rose Ponte, our Economic Development Director, and Kathy Blonsky, our Town Manager, and said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. I'm not really thrilled, but I don't think it's a very good look for Farmington, for our Economic Development Director to be saying, hey, we're supporting small business.
Which,
And then a week later, your town planner issues a letter saying, hey, take out your illuminated open sign because they're not allowed in Farmington. It seemed like an incongruous message being sent out to our small businesses. So we all agreed that this was just gonna simmer till now. In the meantime, Garrett, Bruce, and I took off the gloves and went a few rounds and figured out, we had to decipher the inventory that was done in 2004 to really understand which businesses are non-conforming, or some people use the term grandfather,
Yep.
versus those that aren't. So we kind of could start to put these locations in one of the two buckets. The second thought is then, is this something we want to change? Do we want to allow an illuminated open sign of a small certain size that is not left on all night, that does not flash and look like it belongs out in Vegas, that does not rotate or any other thing, simply is open when the business is open, is on when the business is open, and is shut off, and again, of a certain size. The ones that are grandfathered, the rotating and flashing, we already hit, so they can't do that anyhow. The certain size, I can start to pare down as we move forward. That is something I need you to start to think about, because this is going in one of two directions. We either going to modify the regulation to allow it on a certain small scale, or there is a mass mailing that is going to go out saying all of these signs are coming down. They're done. And I think the more you drive around and you look in the evening, you are going to see a lot of them.
A quick question.
Sure.
These signs, are we concerned for them to be illuminated overnight, or is it something that we want? Because you said that we have them on when the business is open, so which is usually during the day. Why would they want to illuminate a sign during the day?
Well, so in the
No.
evening hours is what I meant. So inevitably, there's a couple of them that just leave them on.
Okay.
It's on 24/7.
Mhm.
So that I don't think is productive, and I don't think we necessarily want or need that. But when they are closed, the sign should be off.
Right.
Or
kind of If you-
And again, so they have the ability to have an open sign, just non-illuminated. So it'd be the, hang the placard in the window open and the other side closed. Or some of the businesses in Farmington Center have a small little flag that says open.
Mhm.
You could do that instead. So this is where we are.
So right now, we don't allow any
There
signs
should-
at all. They're not even not a non-illuminated sign.
No, a non-illuminated
do allow
open
that.
sign is permitted. A non-illuminated open sign is permitted, whether it's exterior or interior to the building. So again, it could be in the window, or
Right.
it could hang as a flag. Not the wavy banner things, because we don't do those either. Those wavy banner
The
things.
floppy guy.
Oh, the floppy guy,
Wavy men.
we all know what they are. That's.
What about the
We all-
travel tax?
we all
The
immediately-
Statue of Liberty tax guy? No?
No, so anyhow, so that's, I understand the time, so we can leave that out and then revisit this at the end of the month. In the meantime, these, we're just, I'm gonna hold on sending out violation letters.
You want notes on that too?
Excuse me?
You want notes on that too? Thoughts?
If there's thought, not as, more of this is just.
I know
if
where
you-
I'm leaning and that's why. I'm
Well, that's
asking.
fine. So if we think we want to change the regulation, then yes, I want some thoughts on what do you think you want that to look like?
Okay.
Okay? If you don't think we want to change the regulation and we want to leave this prohibition on internally illuminated open signs, then obviously there's no need to discuss any of the parameters. I will just embark on sending letters and
Is it
Uh,
be
just
everybody's best friend.
open signs?
Excuse me?
Is it just the open signs or is it?
Well, yeah, because any of the other signs, any other attached building sign is, we would have, right, they need the building permit and our permit in order to attach the building sign to, right? And it's either illuminated, externally illuminated or halo lit, right? We would have gone through all that for their business sign at some point. So either through here during my tenure or under planner's report, if it's a change out like we just did. So this is separate and they're allowed to have their hours of operations, right? They can do that. And so as part of the regulation, they're allowed to have a non-illuminated 12 square foot, I think it's 12 square feet, non-illuminated
Inch.
sign.
I was just curious if like the
Yeah.
package stores that have like the Budweiser sign, are they
Yeah, no, don't-
violations?
let's, please.
I'm just curious.
You're opening a can of worms there, I think.
Please.
No,
That
no,
and the
when to
ice-
stop,
That
Mike.
and the
Not
ice
has
cream
them.
truck.
Yeah.
Did you see me twitch? So
I did think
section,
about that
so
recently. They all do.
It's Article 4, Section 7 of the regulation. I attached the entire regulation to the email on Friday.
And I
So
skipped it.
it's all there as a
external,
PDF.
Internally.
Section 7C6 allows a non-illuminated sign advertising that a business is open. The sign may be located interior or extra the building and may not exceed, it says 12 square feet.
12 square
Mhm.
feet.
Just, I don't, that's what I mean.
That's
if
big.
it's Possible, I copied it over.
Open.
I know it's big.
That's
I said,
really
3x6.
That's like, what, three
3 by
three
4?
Yeah.
3x4, it's a plan sheet. It's really, so from a window, but so the idea is that if it's a window or it's a flag, right? If it's a flag
Nah.
open sign and you're driving by on Route 4 and that business is 50 feet back, right? So
Right.
the idea is that it's still visible from the road as somebody's driving by at
Right.
30, 40 miles an hour. So that surface area, right, is probably a square foot or close to it, isn't gonna do it.
Right.
Right, so that's, yeah, 3x4 is a standard plan sheet or 3x2 and they're, yeah. So,
Anecdotally, I think the only time I've ever responded positively to a lit open sign was if I was low on gas and needed a gas station when they're like all closed, like, that's the only time I was like, I
At 11:45.
Right,
everyone
exactly,
closes
yeah.
at 12:50.
I've never gone to a restaurant and been like, oh, they have an open sign. I'm reacting.
Oh,
I
I
think
did
it makes more difference if you're, if you're traveling through town, you're visiting, you're here for a sporting event. You're, we
You're
all
snow plowing in the middle of the
typically
night.
know, right, we know in general when our local restaurants are open and closed. However, there are some that find this a critical element, and this will be, so, and look, I'm happy to go either direction.
Mhm.
The enforcement end is going to be arduous. There are going to be a lot of happy
Non-compliance and
So,
non-compliance.
but these are also individuals that have been informed, they've been non-compliant in the past. These are all, we went,
This is
yep, they're doing
no-
it again, so.
So it's not gonna be out of the blue. It's
Not for for
Most.
some, it will be, because they're a new business,
But-
and so now they jumped on the bandwagon.
But
I
new
see.
businesses, when they put up signs, are given the regulations that, and told this is what,
100%.
Yeah. so it's not a surprise.
Well,
Shouldn't be a surprise. How about that?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be.
Took me a minute too, man. but I-
You want us to email our thoughts, or you want us to bring it up in the next meeting?
if you want to email thoughts, that's fine, and or it'll recur at the next meeting. I'm more concerned, my focus is food truck, to try to advance that as far as possible, as quickly as possible. This sign thing is more just a needle in my side, a few of our sides, but that will be coming a close second, so that's where we leave that. Okay, so that's all I've got for you for planners report this evening, and I think the last course of business then, unless somebody has something else for me, is to do the meeting minutes.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2024 Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, meeting adjourned.